Okay, we are told that we are live, so I want to wish everybody a happy and prosperous Shabbat Shalom. This is a very unusual day. It's a very wonderful day. It has great symbolism and great portent for our lives, and I want to welcome everyone to once again join us for this round of teachings. And I pray that you're learning something from this, that you're making notes. Get pen and paper handy always, and always. If you're not quite sure you heard something right, go back and you can watch afterwards and make notes. And again, that you build upon it. I could be teaching something, making a reference, and you could be saying, well, why didn't he go this way? Well, you can go that way. You can add and subtract, not from the word, but from the teachings that I give, because this is there's no worry about piracy here. We want everyone to have this word in your kishkas, in your head, and in your being, and in your mouths. So again, I want to welcome everyone. And again, if you like what you see here, please subscribe. And if you don't like what you see here, please subscribe anyway. And we can communicate. And if there's any rough patches of things that are unfamiliar with you, please let us know. And again, for those who might be here for the first time, we are a congregation that goes back to the sources and teaches from the biblical perspective based on the Greek and the Hebrew, and based on a lot of careful research that's not committed to any denomination. We are searching the word carefully and presenting the results of our careful searches. Okay, and again, for those who are unfamiliar for some of our terminology, for God, we say Elohim, which is the word that's used in the Hebrew text. We say the Tetragrammaton, Yud-He-Vav-He. A lot of people just refer to him as Lord, L-O-R-D, capital letters, or the Eternal, or Yah, or Yahuwah. And so we will be sensitive to that and know that there's power in the name, as well as his teaching and his representation, his authority is all in that name, because it's not just how you pronounce it, it's how you live it and how that name affects you with its directives and its purpose. So let us move forward. And also for the name of Messiah, the name is Yeshua. Some people say Yahusha. We say Yeshua. It's the sacred name of the Most High Mashiach. So again, these are some things in other words that creep in. We'll make sure that we explain everything. But in our regular jargon, these are words that we use with fluidity and consistency. Okay. Now I mentioned it's a very special day. This is the 18th day of Aviv, which is this past week since we saw you last. As I told you, Tuesday night was the Pesach, was the Passover. And Messiah is our Passover lamb. So the 14th is the day of Passover. The 15th is the day of the first fruits. Not the day, it's the first day of Hag HaMatzot, the day of the matzah, the day of the unleavened breads. The first day and the seventh day are both Sabbaths, and we're going to go over a lot of this. So don't worry. We're going to go through this thing. Okay, so the first day of unleavened breads was Tuesday. What's Wednesday? Okay, let me get my act together. Okay, Monday was not a recorded event, but Tuesday was Passover. Wednesday, first day of unleavened bread, which makes today the fourth day of unleavened bread. The fourth day, symbolic. The four is always, as we've been teaching, it has global implications. It has eternal implications. The number four, and it has very serious seriousness to it. So the fourth day of unleavened breads is always going to be the 18th, and the 18th day is the day of resurrection. It's the day of Chai. 18, and I'm going to hold this up for a second. Just help me a second, Mama. Okay. We see Chai. How are you? How are you? Okay. Chai is a Hebrew word for life, and it has a numerical value as well. The Yod, which is the first letter, which is the second letter, rather, is 10, and the first letter, which is Chet, is 8. So that's number 18. So the word for life is 18, and the 18th appropriately is the day of the resurrection. And some people celebrate it in the morning, some people at the end of the Sabbath, but because Messiah is the Lord of Shabbat, and so what better day for him to be resurrected than the day of the 18th, the fourth day of Hag HaMatzot, the day in which we celebrate and imbibe within the matzot and refrain from the chametz, the leavening. So we're going to continue to go forward with this teaching. But again, Chai, It's a wonderful word. It's a great symbol, if you will, those two letters together representing life and representing the resurrection of Messiah. So this is all really excellent stuff for us to meditate upon. And as I read every week, I will continue to do that. And this is number 20 today. 5, 10, 15, 20. Nice round number. Our 20th episode. I pray that you've been watching along with us and telling people about us and letting people know that that there's an unusual level of teaching going on here, and we pray that we are effectively providing information that will help us grow, and we need to be teachable. We need to be able to learn from each other. So I just pray that we continue to have that in mind. And as the scripture says in Exodus, the book of Shemot, 31 verse 13, again that little palindrome 3113, in which the eternal Yahweh tells Moshe, speak to the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, saying, above all, this is top priority, okay? Above all, my Shabbatot, my Sabbaths, plural, you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the eternal Yahweh who sanctifies you. A couple of important things. Shabbatot, the plural of Sabbath, is speaking of the weekly Sabbath and the 7 annual Sabbaths that occur in the Hebrew calendar. So that's why I'm talking about this month of Aviv. I'm not talking about February. I'm not talking about March, April, May, or June. I'm not talking about those months, but rather the months that the scriptures tell us is the beginning, which you see in chapter 12 of Exodus. This is the beginning of your year, the beginning of months. So we have Yom 1, beginning of the year, and that is Aviv Echad. And above all, top priority, keep these. Keep them. And again, the word for keep is a word that I'll be using a lot during my teachings, as I have already. The word shomar, shomer, variations depending on how it's being used, but it means to keep, to guard, to watch over, to protect. And we're going to see, to observe. So we're going to see all these things in today's lessons. Above all, my Shabbatot you shall keep, for it, the plurality, the idea of Shabbat, the idea of stopping our behavior and giving him acknowledgement. Now, this is an important concept within the teaching of Jonah, I'm going to be speaking about later on, to stop, okay, stop from untoward behavior. And Shabbat gives us the lesson of Torah to help us move forward without reverting back to our earthly natural form, so to speak. We are moving forward in the newness of life. So we need to be up on that and be faithful. It is a sign, it is an indication, it's a flag, it's an indicator. The Shabbat is an indicator between us and the eternal, in order that we may know through our keeping of this, our guarding of this, that we may know that he is the eternal Yahweh who sanctifies us, who makes us kadoshim, who makes us holy ones. As my friend Michael has observed over the weeks of his teachings, that it's one thing to be righteous, in other words, keeping our P's and Q's, being mindful of behaving ourselves, but it's another to be kadoshim, which are those who take that righteousness in an extroverted fashion and bring it to others, not just to make sure that we're okay at this time of this corona deal. We need to be looking out for each other, and the kadoshim do that. We are our brother's keepers, so to speak. So we are to be faithful and in doing as well as hearing, because the doing comes after the hearing, precipitates that. We need to be a faithful hearer and then so doers. So I pray that we will all be doing. And this time of Hag Hamatzot is much more than, as I've said before, it's much more than checking our baking ingredients, making sure we don't put yeast in our food. Yes, we don't eat yeast for 7 days, but more importantly, we learn the lesson of what the matzot represents, and we're going to see that in our teaching today too. So stay tuned, people. This is a very important thing to proceed with doing. So again, thank you for being with us. Again, please subscribe, give us a listen, give us a shout out, and communicate with us. We're going to share the scriptures. I have 3 readers today, reading of various portions. And then I'll begin my first message. Then we're going to stop. Good, appropriate thing to do on Shabbat. We're going to give contact information, and then I'm going to give you part 2 of the message, okay? So we have a lot in store, and a lot of people say, oh, the Lord spoke to me. He gave me a message. But every so often, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, more like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'll just have this idea. I start speaking these things, and as a stream of consciousness, I believe that the Lord gave this to me this week. So again, bear with me. I'm just going to read this. I got up and I just wrote it all down, so I'm going to be reading here from my from my mind. Okay, and it came to me because we were hearing all day about what we need to do to prevent from getting a virus that'll kill us, and whether we're being over prepared or underprepared, whether this is propaganda, whether this is put that all aside. The fact is, we need to watch out for each other, watch out for ourselves, and do the best that we can. And this is not anything that's the antithesis of keeping the word, because anyway, let me just continue and shut up and speak. Try doing that. Okay, as we currently battle the unseen enemy of virus capable of shutting down the whole planet, let us also insulate ourselves against the insidious influence of chametz, of leaven. As exposure to the virus puts us at risk, so the influence of the smallest particles of chametz, leaven, can contaminate the whole body. We are at war, and we have been called into action, not indifference. Under the mandated quarantine, we have been told to be isolated, to isolate, to wash repeatedly, and knowing that cleanliness is next to you know what. It's good to be clean. It's good to be clean, okay? We are called to be matzot. We are called to be unleavened, matzot. We're called to be matzot by an even higher authority, and to be washed by the water of the word and the renewing of our minds. So today we can isolate and still, by the aid of our gadgets, YouTube and conference calling, we can have the next best thing, and we can still fellowship with no risk of spreading either virus or chametz or misinformation. Okay? These 7 days of unleavened breads, as prescribed in the Torah, establish a repeatable pattern of continuous action to overcome the threat of contamination. And if left untreated, the influence of even the slightest hint of chametz can drive us from our holy habitation. So we be at home and at ease only after having examined ourselves for any symptoms of infection, and so be kadosh, to be holy, to be set apart, and uninfected and healthy in mind, body, and spirit. So that just kind of came, I just rattled it off. I woke up, I couldn't, let me go back to sleep. No, I just jotted this down. It just kind of stream of consciousness. And then I also wanted to mention that this coming Tuesday is the 7th day of unleavened bread. Don't say the last day of unleavened bread. It's going to be Tuesday, Aviv 21. It is the 7th day, but by all means, it is not the finale. It leads us into the further keeping of the kadosh mindset, a holy mindset. It's like we take off the training wheels, and now we're set for our journey along the path, along the derech, the way of righteousness. Okay, and let's see. Tuesday marks the day in which we remove our training wheels, proceed with renewed confidence. Chametz, no leaven. Romans 6:11 reminds us to reckon yourselves to be dead to sin, but alive to Elohim and Messiah Mashiach Yeshua, our Adon. And I'm going to be reading more from that chapter later on. So again, we have a good setup for what we have in store for today. It's a day of life. He is risen. He is risen this day. That should be good news. That is, it's Besar Tov. It is good news. And we give thanks to the Most High. So we're going to say the Torah blessings next, and then we're going to have our readers come forward, metaphorically speaking. And again, I pray that you're taking the steps that are necessary. Just make sure your hands are clean. Who can ascend into the holy hill? But those who have clean hands. And that's why the laver was in the tabernacle, in the Mishkan, and also in the temple, Habeit HaMikdash. So water and the is always the sense of cleansing. With joy we shall draw forth the waters and the wells of Yeshua, salvation. So he offers us Mayim Chaim, living waters. So let us be attentive this day and come together for the importance of hearing the word. That's what Shabbat's about. The Torah, the 2 tablets were given on the Shabbat. It was given to pay attention because Moshe is taught in all the nations around us, it says in Acts 15, that all will have the opportunity to hear the words on the Shabbat. Even the Gentiles who responded favorably to the Apostle Paul, Rav Shaul's teachings, said, come back next Sabbath and teach us more. So, yes, Shabbat is for all man. From one new moon to another, all flesh shall come to worship before me, says the eternal Yahuwah. And the end of the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 66, when he talks about after the new heavens and the new earth are established still, but after the millennium, this is still, the word goes forward and accomplishes everything it sets out to do. Okay. My lovely wife, otherwise known as our Torah bearer, in lieu of our friend Gilbert or Michael, who was also lifted up the Torah. So we do again. And I begin with the procession. When the ark would travel, Moshe would say, arise, O Lord, eternal Yah, let your enemies be scattered, let them that hate you flee from you. For from Zion shall go forth Torah, and the word of the eternal Yah from Jerusalem. Blessed be he who in his holiness gave Torah to his people Yisrael. Amen. Ki metzion de te Torah udvar Adonai me Yerushalayim. Amen. 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 We give blessings and praises because the word comes from one location. It just doesn't show up uninvited or unannounced. It is from Yerushalayim. It comes with great acclaim and praise and generosity, that we receive it with great gratitude of the generosity to give us Torah, his teaching, his instruction. Okay, and we continue. Baruch hu et Yahuwah hamivorach. Baruch hu et Adonai hamivorach le'elam va'ed. Baruch atah Yahuwah Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher baka banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Yahuwah noten ha'Torah. Bless the eternal Yah, the blessed one. Blessed be the eternal one. Blessed be he for all eternity. Blessed are you, eternal, our Elohim, Melech HaOlam, sovereign of all infinity, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, O eternal Yah, giver of Torah. Noten Torah, he's the one who gives the Torah. So we give thanks to him. Baruch Hashem, Abba, we thank you again for this opportunity to receive such a wonderful gift of Torah, to give us life and to lead us in the path of righteousness and holiness, Abba. And we give you praise. B'Shem Yeshua Mishakenu, in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah, we pray. Amen. 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 Okay. So at this point, our again, just to imagine, we have our three readers, and they're all lined up nice and neatly, and they all have something very important to share on their hearts from Hadavar Yahuwah, from the word of the Most High. Okay. Amen. I believe, Patricia, you are first.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Today's scripture is from Psalm 8. O eternal, our eternal, how excellent is your name in all the earth.
Amen.
You set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and infants you have ordained strength. Because of your enemies, that you may silence the enemy and the avenger. When I consider your heavens, work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained. What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. You have made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, even the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, that pass through the paths of the sea. O eternal, our eternal, how excellent is your name in all the earth.
Amen.
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 Psalm 8 virtually begins and ends in the same way, speaking of God's majestic name. In between these two verses, many things are referred to, but in the end, they do not matter. We end where we started by meditating on the splendid, eternal glory of Elohim.
Amen.
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 Also, just to make an addition there, how excellent is the name and also the teaching that it represents, the authority that it represents. Again, it's not just pronouncing the name and getting it name right or wrong. It's about, are we accepting the teaching that is behind and the authority that's behind the name? And again, in verse 3, when it talks about the heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, all these were created to indicate and point out the Moedim. One of the major functions is to let us know the time of these various events that we're celebrating today. So, Baruch Hashem, we bless his name because his name is good. It leads us to ways of truth and wisdom and understanding. Amen. Thank you, Pat. And Gilbert.
Yes, sir. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm reading from Isaiah 63.
I'm familiar with that. Okay.
I'm reading in the name of the Father, the name of the Son, the name of the Holy Spirit. Who has believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Eternal revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty, and we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our grief, carried our sorrows. Yet he did esteemed and stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Eternal hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before the shearers is dumb. So he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. And he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had made no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Eternal to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, he shall proclaim his days, and the pleasure of the Eternal shall prosper in his hand. He shall see the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbed with transgression, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
Amen.
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 Yes. Good,
Now,
good.
Isaiah mentioned the Eternal, which is Messiah, as a servant.
Mhm.
He prophesied, used the title servant to designate Messiah, especially concerning his suffering for sin. The suffering is identified as both vicarious and victorious. The title servant of the Eternal emphasized Christ's faithful obedience to the Father during his earthly missionary. Okay. John 5:19. When you read that, make a note of that, and it will give you more details. The servant passage in Isaiah were some of the key texts used in preaching the gospel
Yeah.
in the early days of Christianity. Acts 8:32-35. In the New Testament, Christians describe themselves as servants to Elohim and of the eternal Yeshua the Messiah. This title conveys their willingness to depend upon the completeness and obey of Elohim. Christians today should also follow the example of the suffering of the servant of the Eternal, who obeyed the will of the head of Elohim, even when it momentarily seemed unjust. For reference, he was smitten, afflicted. We, mankind in general, thought he was judge of Elohim, but he was wounded for and pierced through our transgression, which is sin. Chastisement was our peace with him, and the stripes we are healed.
Amen.
It pleased the Eternal to bruise him, put him to grief, his seed offering for sin.
Yes.
He shall prolong his days. Pleasure of the Eternal Elohim ultimate purpose, which will be accomplished by the atoning, the death, and the resurrection of the servant, which is Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gilbert. I also wanted to bring to your attention again, this time with the matzah, that again, when we look at the matzah, we see that it is leavened. There's nothing to puff it up. It's humble. It's simple. All it is bread and wheat and water, essentially. So we see that it's striped. We see that it's pierced. We see that it's bruised with the welts and the discolorations. And it reminds us, and again, the four corners. Number 4. And I just wanted to bring also attention to the fact that Isaiah 53 really should begin in Isaiah 52. I'm looking at Isaiah 52, verse 10, in response to whom is the arm of Yahweh been revealed? Who has understood who the arm, and then it describes who the arm of Yahweh is. And then we go back to verse 10, sets us up by saying, the eternal Yah has made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations. In other words, he has revealed the arm to all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see Yeshua. We shall see the salvation of our Elohim. So the arm is essentially identified as Yeshua, as the one sent from Ha'av, the Father. So again, this is brilliant, Gilbert. Thank you for your commentary on that, because we need to know Yeshayahu 53, because that is that's certainly one of the true cornerstones of our faith, one of the major prophecies that we see. And a lot of people, I saw this fellow interviewing people in Israel and reading these portions from Isaiah 53 without announcing what, and they all agreed. They all said this is a servant, and presenting the gospel based upon it, saying, who else has done this? Who else does this describe, and so on and so forth. So it is certainly one of our major allies in presenting the gospel in truth. Amen. Thank you. And Michael?
Yes, Michael.
Okie dokie, Michael. You are at bat. We have Michael by phone.
All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 5.
Yes.
1 Corinthians chapter 5. The whole chapter involves unleavened bread, and also the passage of the Tefilah, as we read in the later days. You see here that in regards to unleavened bread, that it's not the feast of without leavened bread, but the unleavened bread. So leaven is not supposed to be there. We have in verse 1 that there's fornication among the group there, not even among Gentiles, that one should have his father's wife. And ye are puffed up. there is a mentioned symbolism there in regards to leaven which puffs up. So again, he's relating this whole chapter in regards to unleavened bread.
Yes, it is.
He mentioned this past, not rather mourned, that he that hath done this thing might be taken away from you. Again, as the leaven should have already been put out, but they were pumped up. But I verily absent in body, but present in spirit. Again, this is he wasn't physically there, but by letter to Corinthians, that's how he was there in spirit. Concerning who have done this deed, and the name of our, Yeshua Messiah, his teaching, not necessarily just Paul's, but to the decision in Scripture in regards to fornication, or in this case here, like adultery. When you are gathered together, my spirit, to the Lord such a one to safety, outside of the battle, outside of the safety of the ecclesia, the destruction of the flesh, that the spirit might be saved. Spirit would be the individual in the day of Yeshua, his return. And here we go in regards to getting for existence about unleavened bread. Lowering is not good. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. There it is right there. No leaven at all can be found. It's supposed to be zero. And it has, it's like it leavens the group. And that's why you have in verse 2 that everyone is puffed up. This was that little leaven. One individual, but yet the whole congregation pretty much there has been puffed up. That little leaven there. And of course, verse 7, you must purge out there for the old leaven, that you may be a new lump to eradicate the leaven, as you are unleavened in your literal houses physically, so that there's a equation, there's an equality. What you do physically in the observance of the product, you're not to do spiritually in regards to ethics. As you are unleavened, for Messiah, our Passover is sacrificed for us. So therefore, now we have the inclusion of Passover in regards to, and that's why that kicks off. Passover is the preparation day for unleavened bread. That's why you have to sit there. So let's keep the feast, right? Not with the old malice and wickedness, but the leaven, unleavened of sincerity and truth. Here we have of course, now the ethics in regards to leaven and unleavened. In verse 9, I wrote even an epistle, apparently which we seem to not have, that not to keep company with fornicators. Not those of the world, covetous or extortioners, because you have to be of the world. Of course, the other there, in the ecclesia, if anyone is a brother, brother, sister, and is, these fornicator, covetous, idolater, wanker, extortioner, meet, how to do them without, their judgment is, but they always have the opportunity for salvation and it's invited, but we're to judge those that are within, by the standards that we have. But those that are without, God judges in His way. And then it ends again here with that issue in regards to being leavened. Put away from amongst us that was put away. Again, the leaven, put the leaven out. So we see here the whole chapter here in Corinthians deals with unleavened bread, initiated by the Pentecost, and it's of course now the truth of ethics. Okay, that's it.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. And again, we need to know that this is not just a one and done type of a feast. This is a 7-day feast that we literally observe by eating matzah and not having any chametz, any leaven. But there's a deeper teaching there that guides us through the year. This is the beginning of the year, but well on to the year, we should also always have Messiah as our Passover. We should always have that leaven already purged out. We should have that leaven purged out before we eat of that unleavened bread. So let us be mindful of what our responsibilities are. Okay? Amen. Let me at this time begin my teaching and to get everyone up to the all together here. Again, it's the 18th. It's the day of resurrection. This is a reason to be happy, joyful, and grateful to who He is, that He's watched over us and He keeps us and protects us, and He just asks us to walk with Him, to walk with Him. Because unless we are of the same mind, we don't have any business walking together with Him. But we're told to walk with Him, to walk in our walk. The word walk is used throughout Old and New Testaments, Hadashah as well as Tanakh, to walk in righteousness, to walk even as He walked. So it's a tough and tall order, but we are more than capable. He's given us and given us access to His Ruach, His Spirit, to pursue His righteous standard. Okay, so I'm going to begin here again with regards to Chag HaMatzot, and again we see in the First Corinthian letter a lot of references to the Exodus, a lot of references to the unleavened breads and the keeping of the Pesach and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going back to Leviticus 23, verses 4 through 8, and it begins. And again, I'm going to proceed. I'm not going to wait. Not that I don't want to wait for you, but I'm just make references if you have pen and paper. Otherwise, you can go in and check back with us or contact us, and we'll give you the references because I want to keep a good pace here because this could take us for a couple of days, but that's okay too. Leviticus 23, 4 through 8 says, These are the feasts of the eternal Yahuwah, holy convocations, Mikra Kodesh. And the word Mikra, one of the definitions of that word, as well as community, congregation, gathering, also means a rehearsal, a dress rehearsal, a trial run. So these are set as an example for us to follow. Okay, these are holy convocations which you shall proclaim at their appointed time. That's why they're referred to as Moedim, the appointed times. The appointed times. Even the tent of meeting that Moshe would meet with the eternal Yahuwah was called Ohel, which is tent, Moed, of the appointed place, the appointed time. This is where I will be. This is when I will be. So make sure that you fix your clock and synchronize your watch with me. Okay. We make sure we're on the same schedule. Otherwise, we miss each other. Okay? On the 14th day of the first month, Aviv, first month, just passed a couple of weeks ago, at twilight is Yahuwah's Passover, Pesach. On the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Breads, Chag HaMatzot. So the word for unleavened breads literally is matzah. And the word literally for leaven is chametz. Okay? It's the Feast of Unleavened Breads, matzah. 7 days you must eat matzah, unleavened breads. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation, Mikra Kodesh, dress rehearsal. You shall do no customary work, and the word refers to menial or slave labor, because you're being liberated from that. So don't be reminded of that on this day. So we go from slaves, aimless and purposeless, to princes and princes who are now being recognized by the king. We do no customary work on it, but you shall offer an offering made by fire to Yahuwah for 7 days. The 7th day shall also be a Mikra Kodesh. You shall not do any menial labor upon it. So these are 2 additional annual Shabbatot, okay? So these are 2 of the 7 that I mentioned at the beginning, okay? I'm turning to Isaiah 58, verse 13, the importance of keeping the Shabbatot with the right mindset. It says, if you turn away your foot, which remember is the regal, and the plural of regal, your feet, is regalim, and matzot is one of the 3 feasts of assembling, of pilgrimage, which is called shalosh regalim, the holy appointed places. So regal, the feet are connected with the pilgrimage, literally. If you turn away your foot from Shabbat, both weekly and annual Shabbatot, like these 2, from doing your pleasure, not thinking about it, but doing your pleasure, apart from His. You see the distinction between when it says your way and my way. His ways are above our ways if we're still operating and functioning in the world with a worldly mindset. But if we're doing our pleasure, we're not doing his. We were implying that by our pleasure, we're not doing what he would want us to do. Who become lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim. 2 Timothy 3:4. So that's implied there. Okay? On my holy day, if you resist from doing your pleasure on my holy day, so again, yours and mine, when will the twain shall meet? Now in the Brit Chadashah, we have the mind of Messiah. We have the purpose. We are part of the body. We are the Beit HaMikdash. We are the temple. Okay? We are the holy living stones of the temple. Okay, and you call Shabbat a delight, not a burden. You call Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Yahuwah, honorable. So here we see that parallelism. Shabbat equated to holy day, delight equated with honorable. And then it says the holy day of Yahuwah, honorable. You shall honor him. So by keeping Shabbat honorable, we honor him. It's not a day that we celebrate, it's him that we celebrate, and his example and his purposes and his teaching, his instructions. It's not simply a day off. Get that out of your mind. A lot of people think that I didn't go to work today. I kept the Sabbath. I watched cartoons all day, and that's not a bad idea to sit home and watch some cartoons. Some good ones out there, but not on Shabbat. Okay, that's not your purpose for Shabbat. Okay, Shabbat, no cartoons. Okay, it's not simply a day off. Not doing your own ways. Again, your own pleasures, your own ways. Isaiah 53, verse 6, as Gilbert just read, our own ways are like the wayward sheep. Not finding your own, like wayward sheep. Okay, I got my little notes there. I got to be careful. And not finding your own pleasures, which are independent of the shepherd. Okay, nor speaking your own words, which can even be implied as preaching another gospel, right? Your own words. When his words are not in our mouth, we'll read that in a bit, Deuteronomy 30, verse 14. When his words are not in our mouth, we run into problems. His words are not our words. We don't have them in our mouths because it's our own words from our own heads. Grace is not something that we create. Grace is not of ourselves, not of our things, our efforts. It's from him. He gives them to us so that we can do honorable works that are tied in with his salvific purposes. Okay? Okay, so preaching of the gospel. Okay? Then and only then shall you delight yourself in Yahuwah. So again, this whole introduction in Isaiah 58 verses 13 onwards. Then and only then shall you delight yourself in him. Halakha, the way to walk. The way to walk. And again, the Shalosh Regalim, the foot festivals I referred to, 3 pilgrim festivals in which we walk towards his presence. See, the pilgrimage reminds us 3 times a year, regardless of what's going on in our lives, we walk towards him. Deuteronomy 16:3. 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before the eternal Yahuwah, your Elohim. So again, it requires effort on our part. It's not done for us. It's not room service. It's not breakfast in bed. We got to get ourselves up. We got to get our butts in gear and appear before the eternal. So we need determination to advance to be where he is. There's an invitation. Come to me, O you who are lazy, and I will give you purpose in your life, as well as I will give you rest if you're working too hard. If you're working, I will give you rest. It requires our response to his generous offer to get up and go. Get up and go. Okay? So we shall appear before the eternal in the place which he chooses. Which he chooses. Well, can't I go here because I'm more comfortable here? No. This is where I am. This is where you need to come to. You gotta again, we have the GPS system, which is the Ruach HaKodesh, right? We have our scriptures, which serve as our roadmaps. We need to know where we're going. This is the place where he chooses, not where I choose, not my pleasures, not my ways, but his ways. His ways blot out the sun. I have this little thing. Well, represents my way. His will blot out the sky. So we need to acknowledge his ways, and his ways are the ways of life and blessings and shalom, perfect wellness and peace. We need shalom this day. And shalom just doesn't mean quiet, peace and quiet. Shalom means a wellness in your bones. It means that you are okay from top to bottom, from the crown of your head to the bottom of your feet. You're okay. You're well. Okay? Okay. In the place where he chooses, and here they are, the Feast of Matzot, the Feast of Weeks, which is Shavuot, Pentecost, and at Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles, is the places. So be there or be square. But don't, if you're square like the matzah, which means you have four corners to you, which means you have four avenues of your purposes, that wouldn't be too bad, okay? But be there and be square, okay? Whatever you want to do. It says, and they shall not appear before the eternal Yah empty-handed. The price of admission. You have to count the cost. This is the time of the tithe. So whether you tithe weekly or annually, 3 times, these are the times where you would appear before the Lord, not empty-handed. Now, these days are tough to do this, right? So we put aside your offering to the eternal Yah, okay? And we can do this because we can make the offering because we are full. We are full. These Moedim make us full. And full of what? With what? And the answer begins with Psalm 81, verse 10. Starts with Psalm 81, verse 10. I am the eternal Yah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt on the 15th day in the evening. Numbers 33, verse 3. People say, well, this wasn't done. Messiah didn't celebrate the Passover. He says, I've longed to have this Passover with you. And there's people preaching that it was done on any other day, that it was done with bread with leaven. And why do you got to go there? When Messiah's words clearly say, I have long desired to celebrate this Passover with you. And again, the beautiful symmetry of the true calendar shows us that Passover is always going to be celebrated in the evening of Tuesday evening. And then Wednesday is the day of the judgment upon him and his death and his being buried on Tuesday night. I'm going to go into detail also. So then you have 3 days and 3 nights arriving on Shabbat. The end of Shabbat, the beginning of Shabbat, 3 days, 3 nights, not 72 hours, as our friend Shalia Moshe talks about. It doesn't say exactly hours, but I'm going to show you a really cool thing about the two events that led to the 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, that comes later on. So that's going to be the afikoman, the dessert later on in the meal here. Okay. Okay. I brought you out of the land of Egypt on the 15th. Okay, so open your mouth wide. So with a great expectation, like a baby bird. I'm not just going to open my mouth. Yeah. If you're going to give me to fill this empty cavity, this pie hole of mine, I'm going to open really wide, like a little kid said, open up wide. Open up real wide. You got candies, okay? I'm going to open up real wide. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it, overflowing. Again, you can open up as wide as you want. I'm still going to manage to fill it. I'm going to manage to overflow your expectations. I'm going to manage to not disappoint, but to stun you with the brilliance and generosity of my capabilities. And we run ourselves in problem when we think we limit him and his capabilities to help us in these situations. So again, fill our mouth. Fill our mouth with what? Here's where I talk to Deuteronomy 30, verse 14. The word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. Not simply hear it, but that you may do it. The word is not just an audible assistant. It is actively involved in us doing the word. Deuteronomy 32, verse 46 to 47. And I always love this portion. I really do. It says, set your hearts on the words. Remember, out of the abundance of the heart, we will speak. Set your hearts on all the words which I testify among you today. He dwells among us through his word, right? Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered, eager to hear the word and share the word, he's in our midst. We're not talking about, and I say this numerous times, so I apologize for those who think this is a broken record, but it's not like 2 guys talking about the ball game or the lack of a ball game this time of the year. It's talking about when we're gathered together like we are today. When we are chavarim, we are assembled together. We're sharing something incredibly unique that the world doesn't know about, sadly. But they will. They will. Because you're going to tell them, you're going to say, you're going to see the strange guy with a strange-looking beard on Kahal Elohim, and this is the 20th show, and it says in the topics what we're covering here. So you're going to take your responsibility and share in our excitement that we're having. We're having fellowship. Koinonia. We are sharing in this wonderful word. And I pray that it excites and bubbles up within you with Mayim Chaim, living waters. You set your hearts on all the words which I testify among you today, which you shall command your children, to be careful to observe. Shamar, to keep, to watch, to guard, to watch over. Teach them to be careful to observe all the words of this Torah, for it is not a futile thing. They're not idle words. For it, being Torah, is not a futile thing for you, because it is your life. Well, the law is only there to show the transgressions. Oh, the law is only, you got to get the full counsel of the word. People will take a little verse here, a little verse there, and come up with their own little cultic gospel. Just like Thomas Jefferson, his Bible, he deliberately eliminated all the miraculous things of Yeshua. You know, it was great ethical teachings, but not miraculous. So that's good old Tommy. Okay. It is your life, this word. And by this word, you shall prolong your life into eternity. You shall prolong your life, because these words give us life everlasting. Le'olam va'ed, into eternity. And your days in the land which you shall cross over the Jordan to possess. Because he said, go in and possess it. So if we do what he tells us to do, we will be blessed, because we're going in. It says, go in and have that slice of blueberry pie with ice cream. I command you. Okay. You know, it's a pretty easy commandment. You know, we want to be blessed. We come from slavery. We want a land of milk and honey. Okay. Just tell me when, Lord. Tell me when. But of course, man with the cabeza, with the head that doesn't want to listen for fear, don't always get what we pray for, because we don't have the faith to build upon, to receive it with gladness. So again, a little leaven leavens the whole batch, but the word, which works in direct opposition and strong opposition to the evil tide, grows ever stronger for those who live by it. Okay? So just as leaven will puff you up, the word will help us to grow organically, spiritually, powerfully, to fill our stature to the fullness of Messiah. We're growing into the body of Messiah. It's like he made this little outline for us, just like little kids when you're little and you put a little pencil mark. Okay, you're 3 years old. This is the little mark here. Remember when you were 2 years old. Okay, now you're 7. Remember when you were 3. So eventually we're going to have all 6'1" of us, or thereabouts, the full stature. We're going to grow to the full stature of Messiah, which means meet the full potential of the Eternal's expectations for us, to be walking as Messiah does, to let there be no difference. Essentially, we've used that example numerous times, where you're walking down the street with a bunch of the Talmudim and Messiahs in the midst of them. We shouldn't be able to tell who's who. That's why Yehuda had to kiss the one who was Mashiach, because they're all acting the same. They're all behaving themselves. They're all doing right. They know what to do. It's not difficult. It's not too hard for you. Okay? It's stronger for those who live by it. And of course, Messiah gave Hasatan a body slam with that verse. Man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Elohim. Matthew 4:4. Okay? Doesn't live by bread alone. Yeah, we need bread, but not bread alone. You got to put a little peanut butter on, a little jelly. No, bread alone, meaning the form of sustenance to fill our mouths for nourishment, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Elohim. So it's like mouth to mouth. It's like a holy kiss from his mouth to our mouth. It's like the breath of life, the resuscitation for somebody who's drowning. You want to breathe into that person, breathe life into that person, even as Yahuwah breathed into the first man, Adam, breathed into him the breath of life. So it's like a holy kiss. It's giving us life and sustenance. It's helping us with his approval and with his intention to help us to be what we need to be. And I'm going to Isaiah 59, verse 21. As for me, says the eternal Yahuwah, this is my covenant with them. My spirit who is upon you, and my words which I have put in your mouth shall not depart from your mouth, nor from the mouth of your descendants, nor from the mouth of your descendants' descendants. It is both literal and spiritual ancestors. So in other words, this is talking about going on and on when it talks about for all generations, your descendants and their descendants and their descendants. And it's for us today. And because of the faithfulness of the few, we are here today. We're gathered together. We're talking these words. Well, at least I am kind of bloviating here, but you're in for some really good stuff here. I'm telling you, not because I did it. This is all the word. This is the word. This is in your scriptures. And I'm just sort of like a little guide. I'm like the guy working at Disney World, outside of one of the rides. I just show you to your seat. Okay, you're going to go on a nice ride here. Here you go. The first row. Okay, you got room for 3. Don't try to squeeze 4 in. I says 3. Okay, you go sit over here. And there the ride begins. That's my job. My job is to be the director of this little shindig that we do every week. That's it. I am Eved. Eved is the only title I ever sought. And Eved means servant. That's what we're here to serve. We're here to serve. And that's my intention, okay? Okay. Your descendants, etc., 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 says the Yahweh, from this time and forevermore. In case you didn't make that clear by the idea of your descendants. And that you just keep going. Keep going. It's like with the football. Says, okay, go back. I'm going to throw it. You're going to keep running. You're going to keep running. You're going to keep running. Well, I hope that guy has a strong arm, But it is Yahweh. It is the eternal Yah who has the strongest arm, the mighty, strong arm. That's how that mighty hand and the strong arm, the arm of strength, is how he rescued us from Egypt, both literally and today in your lives today. He's delivering you from the temptations of the Egypt of this world. The Pharaoh of this world, the adversary, seeks to bring you back into captivity and tell you everything's great. I got onions. I got leeks. I got garlic. I got great salads. I got great barbecues every week. Lots of treif. Got the pig on the barbie and the shrimps on the barbie. It's all ready to go. I was saying, okay, I'll do this, or I go into a desert. Let me think. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. And again, from Matthew chapter 12 and 34, the second part of that verse is, for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. Now that's for better or for worse. If the abundance of your heart is not right with Elohim, you will continue to blah. You will continue to vomit out nonsense and foolishness and senselessness. And it doesn't mean anything. It's vanity. It's all vanity. It's vapor that dissipates in the ether. Okay? But Mashiach is talking in Luke 21. It says, 21 verse 15, for I give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. Where's this going to come from? It's going to come from Mashiach. It's going to come because he's the word incarnate. He's the word. He is the living Torah. His words of instruction will help us to live the best life that we could possibly live. And it's a good, joyful existence. So to be at home, as we are, most of us, this is my palace, my palatial mansion here. If you want to visit us, I have somebody outside. What do we call that? Who parks the cars? What do you call that person? Valet. We have a valet out there parking cars. So we'll all fit in and we'll be fine. Okay. But for now, stay at home. So to be at home, to be at comfort with Yahweh, we must clean up our act. If we're invited to go stay for a weekend, we better put on our best self. Okay? The temple, the Beit HaMikdash, the holy house, must be clean and pure. We have to get rid of what doesn't belong. So again, if Messiah's going to come in and sup with us, we got to make sure that we do a little cleaning before he's going to be knocking on the door for a long time in some cases. Hold on just a minute. We'd love to have you in here, but we just want to clean up a few things. So let us be. That's why we don't get rid of the leaven at the end of Passover or just before Passover. I suggested weeks ago, and we've been preaching this. Michael and I have been preaching this. Get rid of the leaven now. It's foolish to hold on to sin. Well, I'll behave myself. It's like the whole nonsense of the Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras. Let me just exploit all these carnal pleasures, get drunk, go to brothels, listen to that jazz music. And you know what the term jazz came from, so I won't go there. I won't mention that. But and then we get our ashes the next day, which show how holy we are. Jesu Domine. We get that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to insult anyone who might be watching us for the first time. He's insulting. I think he's insulting my religion. I'm not. I'm just talking about we do a lot of wasteful things. You know, if Regina is cooking a meal, she's not going to be doing a dance around the kitchen before she prepares the meal. She's going to go right to the task, and she does excellently, as you can tell. I'm not in any position of starvation. So get to it. This extraneous stuff, you need to get rid of it. It's chametz, it's leaven. Get rid of it. It's nonsense. We're expecting Messiah anytime. In 5 minutes, he's supposed to be here. Let's prepare to welcome him with a great honor, okay? So again, clean house, clean house. What does that remind us of? Okay, Yochanan chapter 2, John chapter 2. I'm looking at verse 13 to 21. Now the Passover of the Judeans was at hand, and Yeshua went up to Jerusalem, again going up to Jerusalem, making aliyah. And he found in the Beit HaMikdash those who sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers doing business. Business. How many people out there in congregations are just doing business? You know, there's congregations that interrupt services so they can count dough, and if do that later. Do that on a day so that when Shabbat comes, we don't have to do that stuff. Okay, but how many people are doing business today? And I'm not talking about working for we're not supposed to work on Shabbat, right? We shall not work, and specifically no menial labor. But how many people are doing business today? They're selling and they're buying and they're doing things. Well, it's my latest CD, or it's my latest book, or my this, my that, and it's business. We had 5 new people today. So that means blah blah blah. Let's put the chalk marks up there, the railroad ties, and we have 5. They're in our grasp. Don't let them go. This guy is a banker, and this other guy's the head of a corporation. Hold on to them. Anyway, clean house. Oy. And when he had made a whip of cords, so Yeshua's watching all this. This was not a sudden rage. People, he got really ticked off there, didn't he, when he cleansed the temple? Yeah. But let's read what actually happening there. He's carefully watching everything as he's preparing things. Even in the life of Moshe, when the Lord would say, okay, I'm going to destroy them and start again with you. No. Just remember I talked about this a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the fig tree, the parable that Messiah gave. He says, well, I want some figs, and this thing has been growing for 3 years, and I don't have enough figs. And I got me a fix on. There's some figs. I want me some figs. I got a fig tree. I got no figs. And there's the tenant saying, hey, wait a minute. Don't destroy it yet. Let's do a few more things. Let's give it some fertilizer. And then if it still doesn't do it. So the Lord is merciful. So he's watching the stuff going on. He's not quick to temper, but he's watching it. And as he's doing it, he's being creative. he's making a whip made out of cords. And he winds up driving them all out of the temple. Not just a couple of fringe people. Well, this guy looks a little weak. I think I could take him. No, he drives everybody out along with the sheep and the oxen, and he pours out the money changers, and he turns over the tables. So he cleaned house. He got rid of the chametz. Okay? He got rid of it all. We don't usually get that picture, do we? We just got that he got a little angry and he said, No, he got rid of everybody. That whole area was wiped clean. A whole wipe down, just like with the viruses, with the Ebola, the people who work in a completely anaerobic environment wipe down everything. So it's so pristine. There's not a living microbe in those places where they're shut down. People wear those heavy hazmat outfits. Okay, drives them all out. Overturns the tables. Turns the tables on the adversary. The adversary had made this a place of business. And Yeshua turns the table saying, no, it's going to be clean. It's going to be pure. It's going to be purged from you because you're doing business here. You're out. And what does he say? Take these things away. Get it out of here. Do not make my Father's house a house of merchandise. Don't make it anything other than what it should be. It's supposed to be a kadosh dwelling, a house. The word for temple is bayit. It could be also pronounced. But it's a house. It's a house for my Father. It's a house where you can come visit. It's your house too. It's our house where we can meet together. Then his Talmudim, his disciples, remembered that it was written, zeal for your house has consumed me, has literally eaten me up. So the Judeans answered and said to him, that didn't go beyond their notice, no matter how blind spiritually they were. Physically, they saw something. Okay. So the Judeans answered and said to him, what sign do you show us since you do these things? So Yeshua answered and said to them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then the Judeans looked at each other and said, it has taken 46 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking of the temple of his body. The truest temple is the body of Mashiach. Where is it? does it still stand today? Well, let's go to 1 Peter. Shimon Kifa, Echad, number 1, Peter 2, 1 through 8. It says, therefore, laying aside or rejecting. To lay aside, you reject it. You know, you're preparing things. This doesn't look so good. I'm going to lay that aside. No, thank you. Laying aside all malice, all, and again, this is all. This is the chametz again. This is the chametz. Getting rid of the chametz. Not some of it or most of it, but all of it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Because if you leave a little bit left behind, it's going to still create a serious situation, a condition in which the chametz takes over. It's like the Blob, the old Steve McQueen movie, right? The Blob. Whoa. It consumes, it continues to grow, and it continues to grow. So you can't let a little bit remain. So therefore, get back to the text. I'm sorry if I'm prolonging this, but this is stuff we need to fully understand. Therefore, laying aside all malice, all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and all evil speaking, a thorough and complete cleansing, a removal of all traces of leaven, as newborn babes desire the pure milk of the word. And for a newborn babe, milk is their survival. They can't say, well, no, I think I'll have a rye on the rocks with a beer chaser or something, or maybe I'll have a chocolate milk. No, it's got to be the pure milk, unadulterated, nothing added to it, nothing subtracted from it. Desire the pure milk of the word for our survival, that we may grow thereby. So again, as opposed to being puffed up by chametz, which represents a false growth. You know, just like we look at our numbers, there are congregations that look at their numbers, and what did Messiah say? You're making them twice the amount, is it twice? Making them more a disciple of the adversary, you know, of hell, of Sheol. You're making them, okay, you got numbers, but they're not good numbers because what you're preaching to draw them are not good. So good, double plus ungood. No good, no good. Okay? Salud, by the way. I think I heard a sneeze. Continuing. As opposed to being puffed up by heavens. If indeed you have tasted that Yahweh is gracious. So again, we've tasted the matzah. We've tasted the word, which has been in our mouth. And the word is Tov Ma'od. The word is Metsuyan. It is excellent. It's very good. It is good. It continues to do its purpose. And so coming to him, again, it requires us to actively approach. We actively approach. We don't sit back and wait to be served by the poolside, by the pool boy, like I said before in previous teachings. Okay, we got to move forward. We got to move. Okay, coming to him. So active movement is required. Otherwise, you don't get what's coming. As to a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by Elohim and precious. So this rock, this is useless. But for us, whoa, this is a huge diamond. It's precious. You also, as living stones that are precious, right? These are precious stones. Also, as living stones, are you being built up as a spiritual house? So we are living stones being built into the spiritual house. Okay, we are the temple having been cleansed. We are a spiritual house that have been built up by living stones, lively stones that have purpose, that are not sitting back passively, but that are actively addressing salvation to work out daily with fear and trembling. We're moving. We're on the move. The gates of hell shall not prevail, but we got to be on the move. We can't sit back and be passive and let things happen. Whatever, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. So we can do that. We can have that approach. We can have that. We could probably triple our attendances too, because we're going to be preaching cupcakes and chocolate cake and all kinds of good stuff. But stuff that's going to kill you, okay? Okay, built up into a spiritual house as Kohanim, as holy, Kadosh Kohanim, holy priesthood. Okay, holy priesthood. As opposed to Malachi and then these other prophets that talk about the corrupt priesthood. Anyone could be a priesthood. In fact, the Levitical priesthood at this time had become a big, fat, bloated, again, with leaven, big, bloated bureaucracy. They were just doing their business. And then you had the Farashim, who had started out as teachers of the Torah. We see that in Ezra and Nehemiah, that there were those who were helping to explain the word. They went on to become this huge bloated entity also. So enter into this scenario, Mashiach, who's preaching the true word. These guys going to embrace him? No, we want nothing to do with this guy. He's making things too clear and simple. We wanted the bloated bureaucracy. We want all the nonsense. We want the terminology. That's why when Congress agrees they have a 3,000 page thing, which is bloated with nonsense. We need food. We need shelter. Okay, well, we're going to pass that, but we're going to throw these other things in there. We're going to do all this other stuff in there too. And then eventually, spiritual has a holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices that are acceptable to Elohim through Yeshua the Messiah. So this is a Kohanim that are proven to be faithful, proven to be true, because they're unleavened and they're capable of offering the spiritual sacrifices which are acceptable. As opposed to Malachi says, you guys, you think that you can give Elohim your leftovers. You try doing that to your governor, right, Michael? You try giving that to your secular people. They won't accept it. Neither will I, the Lord says. Okay, therefore, it is also contained in Scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he who believes on him will by no means be put to shame. So notice the word precious keeps coming up. We are to be precious in his sight, to be valued, to be really chosen. The chosen people are chosen because we are precious to him. That's why he'll choose us. The old days playing in the schoolyard, you play choose up to play basketball or baseball. You play choose up. Who are you gonna pick first? The guy with the bulging muscles, of course. He's going to be our cleanup hitter, right? You choose the right people for the right jobs, okay? So he's precious to me. He's going to be our first baseman. Therefore, to you who believe, he is precious. Again, he is precious. If we believe, he is precious. You get that? If we truly believe, he is precious. He is kadosh, but he is also so precious to us. But to those who are disobedient due to excessive chametz overdose, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. And again, the builders, the Pharisees, had a phrase referring to themselves as builders. So here the builders reject, and the rejection of that stone, which is precious to us, is actually the cornerstone. Without that, the whole building collapses. And a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. My words today, they're going to offend some people. They're going to say, well, wait a minute. I didn't learn this anywhere. They don't teach this in my congregation. So it can't be true. Even though he's reading the word, not adding to or taking away from, nor making it fit into a square peg, into a round hole of a various denomination or a little catechism that everyone holds, which is precious to them. Precious. I want the precious. The ring's going to only destroy you, Gollum. So anyway, back on track here. They stumble being disobedient. So he becomes a rock of offense to them. And they stumble being disobedient to the word to which they also were appointed. And again, they're disobedient. They're also leavened. To the teeth are they leavened with chametz, to which they were appointed. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, like the Exodus. Our praises release his kadosh word from our mouths, moved by our hearts to do so. Okay? So this is the Exodus right here. Out of darkness into marvelous light. It's not just out of something and not sure where we're going. Avram left his home because Yahweh said, I got a better plan for you, better place for you. Follow me. He told Moshe, I'm going to take them away from captivity to a land of promise, of milk and honey. So there's a place, there has to be a destination. There has to be a destination. In your plans, you make the plan. What is the purpose? What's the goal of your plan? What's the telos, the goal of your plan? Okay? And we were not once a people, and now are the people of Elohim. We were not even classified as a valid assemblage of people, but now we are the unique, precious group, Am Ha-Elohim, the people, Amim Ha-Elohim, who have not obtained, who in the past had not obtained, but now have obtained mercy. These are the words of Shimon Kifa, Simon Peter. And now we have Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, speaking to us from 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Okay, chapter 3 of 1 Corinthians, verses 16 and 17. Do you not know that you are the temple of Elohim, and that the Spirit, the Ruach of Elohim, dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple of Elohim, Elohim will destroy. For the temple of Elohim is holy, is kadosh, which temple you are. Not will be when you're resurrected, not will be when you gain a doctorate, but if you're truly seeking after him, if you're truly a believer who is proclaiming his praises, you are part of that Mishkan, that part of that Beit HaMikdash. I'm going to read now from Exodus chapter 12, verse 15. Okay, 7 days you shall eat unleavened breads, okay? No chametz is to either be in or around us. Okay, these are the days immediately following Pesach, the 15th. Okay, if anyone is found with the chametz, he shall be cut off. Verses 15 and 19 of chapter 12. Cut off. We are to exercise extreme caution. We don't want to be cut off. I can speak for myself. I want to do according to the directions. I want to do according to his word, not add to or subtract from. That should be our for lack of a better term, our mantra. Do not add to nor subtract from. What he gives us is pure. There's no chametz in it. We don't have to worry about it. Okay? On the night of departure, the 15th, the first day of Matzot, we are to watch and to observe. Verse 42 says, it is a night of solemn observance to Yahweh, to the Eternal, for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh, solemn observance for all children of Israel throughout all their generations. So again, this is for all Israel, for all their generations. So I don't really know of too many people who are doing this. The Church of God, established by Herbert W. Armstrong and all the various splinter groups, they keep this. I don't know anyone else who does this. And it clearly says, keep this. It's a day of solemn observance for all the children of Israel throughout the generations. And again, the word shomer is in that term for vigils. Okay? And again, shomer is to observe, to watch, to keep, to guard, to take heed. And it's listed as Leil Shimurim, which is the night of, you see Shamar in there, so you saw that. Shimurim is the plural. The night of vigils, the night of observations. We are to watch. We are to watch what is happening, and we are to be watchmen. But I looked at that. I says, where can I look for more research about this night of vigils? And I looked at a traditional Hebraic source, and it speaks of watching, a night of watching, of keeping in mind, and this is from Ibn Ezra, of keeping in mind the shimurim of celebration and of vigilance are alternative translations, because Elohim shielded them and did not suffer destruction to approach their houses. He ordered that the night be observed by all Israelites as a night of watching, a memorial of a night of redemption. It was the birthright of Israelite nation, and the whole history of Israel is stamped with its memory. Okay, it was a night of watching unto the Lord, bringing them out from the land of Egypt. The same night is a night of watching unto the Lord for all the children of Israel throughout their generations. And again, there's a great transition going on in this evening. They are leaving their place of bondage. They have the wealth of Egypt with them, and all of a sudden it occurs to them, hey, we're not slaves anymore. I feel so strange. I'm no longer bound by this. So this evening represents the observation of this, right? The observation. And of course, in Messiah's day, this is the day when he was placed in the tomb, and there was an observation of now soldiers guarding Yeshua, guarding him. They were shomer him, making sure he doesn't try anything funny, like walking out alive. They were specifically appointed there to do that. But for the Talmudim, they were dealing with the crisis, right? What do we do? What do we do? We can't even go and further anoint him because now there's soldiers in the way. But we know that Yom Echad comes prior to Yom Echad. They came they were able to have access. Night to be observed rather, is a vigil, is a watching, as Messiah, the Passover Lamb, who has delivered us from sin on that night. He lay in the tomb after being the atoning sacrifice for our deliverance. The Anointed One will not see decay or chametz at this time, but will rise for himself and also for us. He has the power to take his life, to give his life, and to also take it back again. So again, all the anti-Semitism in the world will not change that. The Jews killed him. No, the Romans killed him. No, nobody killed me. I gave my life. That was my purpose. That's why I told Shimon Kippur, says, get behind me, Satan. You can't stop me from going and doing this. Yeah, it doesn't look good now, but it's going to look great in a very short time. Oy. What had to transpire before then? It's so horrible. And also, when you think about it, those consecutive nights, you had the night of Passover at nighttime, you had the death of the firstborn, right? And you had the Passover taking place, right? And in the Messiah's day, that was the Brit Chadashah, the new covenant was established. And then you have the next night, which is the 15th, which is the night of observations, in which Israelite establishes the birthright as a nation, as the firstborn of Elohim. So we have the death of the firstborn, and then the potential life of the firstborn of those who were delivered into life through the departure from Egypt, from slavery. The night of vigils. And like I said, I don't know too many people who are keeping this, who are watching this, who are observing this. A night of observation, nobody observes. So guys, let's remember that for next year. The 15th of Aviv, the first day of unleavened breads. In the evening, things get very interesting. Very interesting. So keep that and observe that. Shamar that. Observe all the meaning. There's a lot more than I just quickly said, but watch. So I'm going to go into these texts. As I said, this portion is referred to as watch and pray. So here we are. Matthew 24, verses 42 to 44. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Adonai is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, so here's just talking about an individual, a master of a house, worried about thieves, one that would steal his treasures and that which he considers precious. This is not a righteous person specifically, and I don't think it is. I think it's given to us as that face value. For if the master of the house would have known when the thief would come, he would have watched. Naturally, he would have watched. He would have certainly had his alarms set and his people watching over, and not allow his house to be broken into and all his stuff to be lost, right? So therefore, you, in the same manner of his concern, you also be ready. For the Son of Man is coming, and he's not going to come to us like a thief. He's coming like a thief to those who are not prepared for this event. To us, he's no thief. He's coming at an hour that we don't expect. And again, that's mentioned again in 25:13. I'm going to the Gospel of Mark now, 13, 33 to 37. Mark 13, 33 to 37. Take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is. It is like a man going to a far country who left his house and gave authority to his servants. That's Mashiach. He's gone away. We are his avadim. We are his servants. Okay, and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch. Watch, therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming. In the evening, at midnight, at the crowing of the rooster. Again, this is all appropriate for the night, right? Because that's when Kepha betrays him, right? In those dark hours of the first day of unleavened breads. Lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch. Will he ever find us sleeping? Of course we know from Mark chapter 14, 37, 38. Then in the garden of Gethsemane, the garden of anguish, Yeshua came and find them sleeping and said to Kepha, Shimon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit is willing and the flesh is weak. So they might be sincere, but they're seriously flawed. Sincere, but seriously flawed. Now, a lot of people say, well, the spirit's willing, flesh is weak. That's why I screwed up. That's why I did something stupid. No, this is not a pat on the back saying, we are what we are. People, we got to sin. We're all sinners saved by grace. No, this is a rebuke. The spirit might be willing. The ruach might be willing, but the flesh is weak. We have to put the flesh into submission to the Ruach. No? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Okay. I'm going back to Luke chapter 21, verse 36. Luke 21, verse 36. And again, this is Mashiach talking. It is therefore, watch and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. Now, this is essential, is it not? Watch and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape that which is coming, and that which is coming is still on the way. We haven't seen anything. Those people who think the virus here is the end of the persecution or the diseases that are going to come upon the land. This is nothing. This is a taste. This is a taste. The unleavened are not appointed to wrath. Yet the unleavened are not appointed to wrath. The 1 Thessalonians 5:6. So watch therefore and pray. You will be counted worthy to escape these things. We're not appointed for wrath, because these things are going to come, and we need to be able to stand before the Son of Man, stand with integrity, stand as his unique Talmudim, his unique holy ones, Kadoshim. Mashiach says, it says of him that he would not be ashamed to call them brothers, brethren. So that's pretty, let's just pull up our socks and do what we've been called and commanded to do. Okay, so 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 6. Therefore, let us not sleep on the job, right? Let us not sleep as others do, but let us watch and be sober, vigilant, the night of vigils. What is vigil? It's a form of vigilance, right? Let us be vigilant. Let us watch and pray. Watch, therefore, and pray. It's the commandment that we're given, because he's going away. This is the last meal we're going to have, guys, because I won't drink of that cup until I drink it anew with you in the kingdom when it comes as king to my lesser kings and queens. Night of vigilance. 1 Corinthians 16:13. Watch, stand fast in the faith. Be brave, be strong. Be strong, be brave. Stand fast in the faith. In other words, don't stand reluctantly or eventually. No, stand fast. Put your feet down. Just like that expression that we know. I put my foot down. That's it. I put my foot down. It means something, right? If you put your foot down, that means you are standing with adamant position in the affirmative, right? 2 Timothy 4:5. But you be watchful in all things. Again, all things. Watchful in all things. The chametz is just waiting to come in. Sin is waiting at the door. Okay? It's creeping out there and it wants to pounce on you. And it's the leaven monster. Be watchful in all things. Endure. Okay, these are four things. Again, we're talking about the four. Here it is. Be watchful in all things. Endure afflictions. Do the work of an evangelist. Fulfill your ministry. And he's given these specific instructions as some of the last words that Paul puts to paper. And he's given it to Timothy, who is essentially going to be his replacement. It's like his Jay Leno to Johnny Carson or whatever. He's given it to one who's going to take over. It's a better example is found with Eliyahu Hanavi. Elijah the prophet gave to Elisha. You notice how when you say it in the proper Hebrew, they don't sound anything alike. Most people say, well, Elijah as opposed to Elisha and Elijah, they sound like the same. They don't have to sound the same. Eliyahu and Elisha don't sound anything alike, do they? So anyway, we have to be like Elisha. And remember, we receive the double blessing because we are like the child. Timothy was the child, spiritual child of Shaul, of Paul, just as Elisha was the spiritual child of Eliyahu, in receiving the double blessing as the firstborn. 4. Okay. 1 Peter 4, verse 7. But the end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be serious and watchful in your prayers. In order to be unleavened and not have chametz to ruin us, we need one who will lead us, right? Who is unleavened and is acceptable to lead us. And who is that? And again, the book of Hebrews, chapter 4, verse 15. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted and tested as we are, yet without sin. Tested in all ways, yet passing every test. Like that kid in high school that aced hundreds every time. What does he have that I don't have? I thought we had the studying from the same book. We're listening to the same teacher, yet he has an uncanny ability to ace every test. Let me find out from him how he's doing it, and not be, angry with him because he's doing well. Why should I hate somebody who's successful? No skin off my nose. So wouldn't you want to learn the secret? Well, that's Mashiach. He's giving us the ability to follow after him. He's given us a tracing that we can pursue, an example to follow, no deceit in our mouths, no misbehavior. So he's the author and finisher of our faith. We've heard that, right? The spotless Lamb of Elohim. We've heard that too. He's the only one who qualifies to lead the way, to be without the chametz, to watch. For us to follow and to emulate, we cannot afford to have sin enter into the camp of the Kadoshim. We cannot allow it. We went into the story of Achan, a short while ago, a couple of weeks back, where his sin leavened the whole camp. People are dropping dead, saying, well, what's going on? Is this a coronavirus? No, we got one guy, one jerk, pardon me, I didn't mean to use harsh language, one knucklehead who stole things that did not belong to him. Okay, now I'm going to go 1 Corinthians verse 5. And Michael did a good job earlier. I just want to re-emphasize in the context of my message, okay? So it is actually reported that there is sexual immorality among you, in other words, in your midst, at your core, and such sexual immorality as is not even named among the goyim. It doesn't even enter their minds to do something like this, that a man has his father's wife, and you're puffed up, and have not rather mourned. You should have been completely, I can't believe this is happening. We got to step in and do something to help. You have been puffed up, and not rather have mourned that he who has done this deed might be taken away from among you. Put away the evil leaven. Okay, this is not some accidental trespass that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you. I didn't mean to, this is your book? I'm sorry, we used this for the last couple of weeks. I didn't know you had it. I'm sorry you thought that it was lost. A misstep, something that we do out of character. We get, we get a little upset sometimes. So it's against our normal character, okay? But this is no accidental trespass. This is an overt evil that even the nations would frown upon, okay? For I indeed am absent in the body, but present in the Ruach, in the spirit, have already judged. So here he is, the Ruach in him can judge this thing and see how evil this is without having to be there, okay, as though I were present. So in other words, he judged. It was a short deliberation. The verdict came fast and furious and unanimous, okay? I've already judged him who has so done this deed. Again, he's done it. He hasn't thought about it. He hasn't considered it. He's done it. And everyone knows he's done it. And they're puffed up about it, right? In the name of Adon Yeshua, the Mashiach, when you are gathered together, along with my Ruach, with the power of our Adon, Yeshua the Messiah. So here's Paul speaking very confidently. I have Yahuwah in me helping me make this decision. This is not me. I don't have anything against this guy. But this is what has to happen. Deliver such a one to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, that his spirit may be saved in the day of the Adon Yeshua. Your glorying is not good. We're busy virtue signaling in the world today. We don't want to criticize or judge things, even though the word says judge with righteous judgment. We look at judge not lest you be judged. But if, just like when eating of the matzah of the Pesach, we judge ourselves lest we be judged. We evaluate, we examine ourselves, and then so partake. If we examine ourselves and we're cool, go right ahead. Sit down, enjoy yourself. But if there's something that's preventing you from, in all honesty, proceeding, then refrain. So we're busy virtue signaling, which is a great phrase that we hear from people around the world. And again, we could see an example of that in Romans 1:32. It says B of that verse. They not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. So in essence, you're an accomplice to a crime. You're at the very best an enabler, allowing people to do what's inappropriate and making excuses for them. No, that's virtue signaling. It's terrible. And then Paul goes on saying, do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? That's why you got to get rid of this. Therefore, purge out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, since you are truly unleavened. For indeed, Mashiach, our Passover, was sacrificed for us. Okay? Now, this whole thing about lumps, that came about in the old days when they used to have their dough. And no, I'm not talking about they're putting their dough in the bank. I'm talking about the dough for bread. Okay, they would keep it, and it would be leavened. They would bake a nice bread, a nice challah perhaps. So all they would have to do, instead of getting yeast, fresh yeast, is just take a little bit from that dough, put it aside, bake your breads, but leave that other little piece aside, and then the rest, all you have to do is make the bread and then add that lump in, and you don't have to add any more yeast or leavening factors. So when it talks about that little leaven in the whole lump, the lump is that lump of bread ready to be baked. But you take a little bit out and you hold over and you make the next lump all leavened by adding it. Okay? For indeed, Mashiach, our Passover, was sacrificed for us. Therefore, so this is in response. Messiah was sacrificed for us. So in response to that, let us keep the feast. Let us keep it. Again, Shemer, let us guard the feast. Let us observe the feast. Let us participate in the feast. Not with the old chametz, nor the chametz of malice and wickedness, but with the matzah of sincerity and truth. So is a matzah sincere and true? Well, I don't know if you can qualify any food group as being sincere and true, right? So it has to mean something bigger than that. Has to mean something bigger than that. The chametz has to represent something bigger than just accidentally baking the bread with yeast. It's got to be something more than that. There's got to be the spiritual angle that is the purpose of this teaching. If going back to Exodus 12, again, if I find leaven among you, oh, I forgot to throw that, I'm going to be cut off. Oops, that's a big oops, right? So we do need to make a thorough cleaning. But more importantly, we need to clean up our house. We need to clean up ourselves. We need to clean up our acts and be true and be faithful and not be duplicitous and trying to get both sides of our mouth, lies and truth. We can't allow that. The clean water and bitter water cannot come from the same font, from the same outlet, from the same spout. So we have to be pure. We have to be pure and unleavened. And he goes on to say, I wrote you in my epistle not to keep company with sexually immoral people, because we risk contamination. We risk contamination. Yet I certainly did not mean with the sexually immoral people of this world, or with the covetous of extortioners or idolaters, since you would have to go out of the world. In other words, you would have to be purged. The good would have to come out of the evil. But now I have written you not to keep company with anyone named a brother who is sexually immoral or covetous or an idolater or a reviler or a drunkard or an extortioner, not even to eat with such a person. Again, you've heard this before, but if it's the first time, companis, which means company, means with bread. So when we have a companion or when we keep company, we're with somebody that we're in agreement with and we break bread, okay? That's why you don't eat with somebody who's in open rebellion, because he might be a brother. In one sense, he's not by his actions. And we're going to see another verse shortly about how we can win him back, okay? And then he can retain his relationship. But when they're in open rebellion, you do not do so, because you are leavened by his presence at your table. Oh, I guess Joe is aware that Larry is cheating on his wife, and he's kind of boasting about it, So I guess he's agreeing with it. I guess he's given him his little sign of approval by having a slice of pizza with him. Don't do it. Do not even eat with such a person. For what have I to do with judging those who are outside the community, not part of the covenanted community, okay? Do you not judge those who are inside, those who are within? But those who are outside, Elohim will judge. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They're not getting away with anything. And he says, therefore, put away from yourself. Again, the chametz illustration is clear. Therefore, put away from your lives the evil person. Chametz, the final verdict is the sentence cannot be commuted or compromised, or we risk being cut off ourselves. We got to be consistent. We got to be faithful. And we have to have tough love sometimes. And this is tough love, all right. That his spirit would be saved while the destruction of his flesh. I'm going back to Exodus chapter 13. Exodus chapter 13. Again, the eating of the matzah, having that mindset. We read the word, we're eating matzah. We're doing the works that the Eternal has given us to do. We're eating matzah. We're fortifying our matzahship. Okay? We are not chametz, we are matzah. Okay? Have you ever heard anyone call you matzah before? Well, let this not be the last time. Okay? Matzah shall be eaten 7 days, and no chametz shall be seen among you, evidenced by your outward behavior, which is overt, which is high-handed, nor shall chametz be seen among you in all your quarters, in your homes, the hidden sin that we carefully try to conceal. But the behavior is still bad, regardless of what we think that we're getting away with. But of course, Yahuwah sees everything. And you shall tell your son in that day. Again, the telling is like the Haggadah. The Haggadah is the book that we look to in common during Passover. The Haggadah means the telling. You shall tell your son in that day, saying, this is done because of what Yahuwah did for me. When I came up out of Egypt, being freed from sin, and led to a higher calling, no longer slaves, from slaves to princes. You know, it's the same mindset when we say we're sinners saved by grace. Oh, I'm still in prison. No, I'm still an Egyptian slave. It's the same thing. If you're gonna take that attitude, that's literally what you're saying when you're saying you're a sinner saved by grace. You still have that Egyptian slave mentality, and you're still walking like an Egyptian. You're still talking like an Egyptian. You're still writing hieroglyphs, and yet you claim to be free? No, I'm afraid you're still there. You're still there. The prison of your own mind is the most difficult one to be released from, to break free, to break those shackles. And that's why Yahuwah enables us, and he does the breaking. And he causes us to change, to become from the old nature to the new. Okay? You shall say, this is done because of what he did for us when we came up out of Egypt. Okay? We are now royalty, from slaves to royalty. It shall be as a sign to you on your hand. So this event, this keeping, getting rid of the chametz, is on our hand. It's a sign on your hand. And our hands are to perform works of righteousness. And if it is a sign on our hand, it's another clue that we are not to misbehave. We are not to be foolish. We are not to walk in sin and not to behave like the Egyptian mindset. So it is to be a sign upon your hand, and as a memorial between your eyes. And again, between our eyes, that's our thinking. That's the pineal gland. It's for our thinking minds to deeply consider and be reminded of. Again, we have the Zachor, to be reminded of these things, okay? That the Torah of Yahuwah may be in your mouth, for with a strong hand Yahuwah has brought you out of Egypt. Again, the Torah is in our mouth. The word is in our mouth. It's near to us. It's not far. It's not up in the heavens. It's not down in the depths. It's not to the end of the ocean, east or west. Again, the four directions, north, south, east, west. It's in neither of those places. It's in your mouth. If you truly love him, it's in your mouth. The word is in your mouth. Okay? We do this, that the word will be in your mouth. For with the strong hand, again, that's his strong hand. Our hand must bear the sign of righteous works, which is connected to our thinking between our eyes. Brought us out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. So we must keep it. We must shomer. We must do this every season in refreshing. But again, we don't stop on the seventh day, because the seventh day is not the last day of unleavened breads. It's the seventh day. Just like the Shabbat is not the end of the year of our lives until next year sometime. No, it continues. It starts anew. Okay? You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season, its moed, from year to year. Okay? So again, as I used a reference about removing the training wheels so that we can move forward with a new level of maturity, right? Okay? Leot al yadcha u lezikron ben enecha. Okay? It's a sign upon your hand, the yad, as a reminder. Again, the zikor, We're told to remember, the reminder, and it's between our eyes, okay? Between our eyes, okay? We're told in Exodus 20, verse 8, to remember the Shabbat. We're also told in Deuteronomy 5:15, during that same Devarim reading, that we were slaves. Remember, you were slaves. You can't be so high and mighty. You were once a slave. You were once had no rights. You once came when you were called with no payday coming, no thank you coming. You are a slave and you are in misery. Okay? So now I'm going to jump to the book of Ezra, chapter 6. Ezra chapter 6, verses 19 to 22. Ezra 6, 19 to 22. And the descendants of the captivity, which again come from Babylon, which is sort of like Exodus B, okay? The captivity kept Pesach on the 14th day of the first month. For the Kohanim and the Leviim, the priests and the Levites, had purified themselves. The Lord didn't extend a finger and zap them. Zap, zap. You're purified. No, they purified themselves. It's beyond just their volition to do so. It's their duty to do so and their desire to do so if they are truly kadoshim, truly holy ones. For the priests and Levites had purified themselves. They did it, not as opposed to the Lord's guidance. That's not what I'm saying. But they took the initiative. They did it, which shows that their faithfulness, okay? And all of them were ritually clean. No chametz there. And they slaughtered the lambs at Pesach for all the descendants of the captivity, also for their brethren, the Kohanim, and for themselves. Then the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, who had returned from the captivity, again, Exodus B, they ate together. They ate together, kompanis, company. They ate together with all who had separated themselves from the filth of the nations of the land in order to seek Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel. No obstacles put in anyone's path. Mashiach talks about a time when the big shots of the religion wouldn't even lift up their little pinky finger to help you. Okay? But these are the Kohanim, Tzaddikim. These are the righteous ones. So let me read that again. They are the ones who returned from the captivity. They're eating together because with all who had, in other words, past tense, they had separated themselves. They are truly, by definition, kadosh. They're truly holy people because they're separated, set apart people from the filth of the nations. We separate ourselves from the chametz. We remain matzah, not chametz. Why? In order to seek Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel. So we cannot be in the filth to seek the Lord. And that's what so many people are preaching. Sinners saved by grace. We're all sinners. We're all sinners. We're all liars. Raise your hand if you're a liar. Raise your hand if you're a sinner. That's the mindset. That's the Egyptian slave mindset. And if we are still, how can we be in Jerusalem keeping the Pesach of Messiah? How can we possibly be part of the institution of the Brit Hadashah? It's impossible, I'm telling you. Can't be done. So they kept the Hag HaMatzot 7 days with joy. Simcha. They kept it with joy. They were all pure. They were all holy. They ate together. Sounds like a paradise, right? They were all doing really well. And they were joyful because they knew what it was like to be a slave, whether from Egypt or from Babylon. For Yahuwah made them joyful. They were joyful because he had given them joy. And again, we look at, as a backup, Isaiah 58, verses 13, 14. We talked about this before. When we find the Shabbatot of Yahuwah, a delight and honorable, we will, in their keeping, we will delight ourselves in him. So keeping Shabbat, keeping Torah, makes us find delight in him. Not because we're going to see how good we can be or how great I am, as opposed to how pathetic I am, which I'm a little of both. But the reality is, when we delight ourselves in his provisions, we delight in him. When we delight in the provisions which come directly from him, even as Mashiach and the Word came directly from him to us, we receive it with joy, and we find delight in the idea, in the gift, and also by the keeping of these things, we delight ourselves in the giver. We say this every week, Noten Torah. He's the giver of Torah. So we're grateful for this. And he turned the hearts of the king of Assyria toward them, to strengthen their hands in the work of the Beit Elohim, the holy temple, or the house, the Elohim of Israel. Now, this is ironic, right? Because the king of Assyria, I'm going to be talking about Jonah in a little bit. Remember Nineveh of Assyria, and they repented. That generation repented. So here's a king of Assyria whose heart is turned towards their plight because of the faithful servants that he knows and has developed a loving relationship with. Amazing, right? There's the king of Assyria helps to strengthen their hands in the work. Not only Elohim, but this king of Assyria is giving them the provisions and his blessings upon them. That's pretty cool. Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. This is a very important verse. Everything I'm reading here, so I don't mean to be redundant, okay? And I'm going to break in just a little bit for our contact information, but I want to complete this portion here. 1 Corinthians 6, verses 9 to 11. Again, this portion is referred to as watch and pray, to be vigilant, the night of vigils. All this is kind of tied up with that. That is the fourth day of Hag HaMatzot. It's the 18th of Aviv, the day of resurrection, the day of life. He's risen, people. He's risen. Be joyful. Wow. What good news that is. And strangely enough, there's a lot of people who will keep this Passover and keep this feast next week, a week later, even though they're looking at the same source material that I have and can see no way that they come to that conclusion, or those that are keeping to the pagan calendar. And again, we can keep everything exactly as it should be, and our hearts can be far from him. We could still be living in sin and rebellion and chametz. But since we did this and met on this day, and we say this for his name, and so on and so forth, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you don't know Yahuwah, if you haven't entered into the covenant with him, you don't have to keep Shabbat. How's that for a heavy pronouncement? We can do all these things, and they mean nothing if we don't have the connection. That's why Paul refers to this Gentiles who don't have Torah, and yet they're doing what Torah is. You have Torah, and you're not doing it. What's up with that? What kind of crazy world, Alice in Wonderland world, do you believe in? Or are you involved in, right? Okay, so continuing. We will find delight in him. So he made them joyful, and he turned the heart. Okay, we got that part. Okay, I'm sorry. Get back to 1 Corinthians 6. Do you not know that the unrighteous and those who are filled with the chametz of unrighteousness will not inherit the kingdom of Elohim? Do not be deceived. Don't be won over by your desire to have everyone be nice, and everything's going to be nice. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor homosexuals or sodomites, nor thieves or covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners. And this is the many different fruits of the chametz, right? None of these will inherit the kingdom of Elohim. Malchut ha-Elohim. None of them will inherit the kingdom. And such were some of you. But you were washed. But you were sanctified. But you were justified in the name of Adon Yeshua. So he's telling them that you don't have excuses to behave this way because you were washed. You were sanctified. You were justified in the unique name of Adon Yeshua HaMashiach, in the authority of his teaching and in his instruction, his Torah, and by the Ruach of Elohim. So there's no excuse. 2 Corinthians 13:5. 2 Corinthians 13:5. Examine yourselves as to whether you are even in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not know yourselves that Yeshua, the Messiah, is in you? And I trust that you will know that we are not disqualified. Now I pray to Elohim that you do no evil. Not that we should appear approved. In other words, in a superficial way, we should appear, as long as I look good on the Sabbath, or I seem like Messiah referred to the white sepulchres. Outside, everything looks cool. That's how they appear to be. But inside, they're corrupt, right? But you should but you should do what is honorable. Not so much what would appear, but do it. You might think that this guy's got it all together, but his home life might be terrible. Okay? should do what is honorable. What you appear, yeah, if you could appear good, that's good. But there's always room for error, because a lot of people who got really good acting skills, they really got this working. And they think as they do their business that they have the approval of the Most High, and that I don't know how people can do that, really, frankly. How can you do this and then deliberately do something else contrary and not have that conflict slam you in the head like a 2x4? What am I doing? Okay. But that you should do what is honorable, though we may seem disqualified. We might not be dressed like the best person in the shul or the synagogue or the congregational building, though we may seem disqualified, for we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. All these externals, don't judge by them. Yahweh does not judge by them. He judges by the inner person. So we may seem honorable or dishonorable. We appear to be, but do what is honorable. And though we may seem to be qualified by, we don't speak with great flourish and great articulation, we might be disqualified. They might seem disqualified. And this is Paul saying, though we may seem disqualified. Now this is, for Paul to even mention that, but he does for our benefit. We could do nothing against the truth. What did Gamaliel say to his Talmudim, not Messiah's Talmudim, who were trying to hassle the believers, saying, hey, wait a minute, slow up, guys. Come to a break, come to a halt. Look, you got to leave these guys alone. These teachers and sages have come along and they've come to nothing. But if this is true, we could find ourselves in opposition to Elohim. We might find ourselves fighting him. So we could do nothing against the truth. And Gamaliel at least was wise enough to do that. And he was wise enough to impart that in Shaul, who finally got it after his trip from Damascus. But for the truth, we can only do for the truth. And so, again, tell that to all the antinomian ministers and folk, who are anti-Torah. You're working against Torah. You're working against it. Working against it. Saying you love it. Working against it. That's terrible. It's like saying I love my wife as I beat her to a pulp. You can't do that. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 1 to 15. Finally, brethren, pray for us, that the word of Yahweh may run swiftly. The word goes fast. It's like it has the speed of light on its side. May run swiftly and be glorified, to be taken seriously and deeply considered. Because things can go fast and just bounce off the walls and accomplish nothing. But if it's the Torah of Yahweh, it runs swiftly and be glorified, which is to be considered, to be deeply understood, and taken the time to learn, just as it is with you. May run swiftly and be glorified just as it is with you, and that we may be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men. Again, to get the chametz, avoid the chametz, stay matzah. For not all have true faith. Again, these are guys on the fence. They're on the, and we got to be very careful in dealing with people. But Yahweh is faithful, who will establish you that you would be grounded. He will establish you and guard you from the evil one. So he guards over us. He guards over us. He guards over us. Okay, let me say that right. Guards over you. He that keepeth Israel neither slumbers nor sleep. Again, Shomer Yisrael, guarding Israel, observing Israel, watching over Israel from the evil one. He protects us. He watches over us. And we may have confidence in Yahweh concerning you. So again, confidence is another one of those Latin words, confidence, confides, which means with faith. So when we're confident, we are faithful. See, we tend to think of faith as just being this allegorical belief as opposed to confidence. If you're confident in something, it's evident. If you have confidence in something, you're working to build it up, and it's affecting your life. Not just this little belief, or whatever, faith, which is a word that we've heard so many times, but to be confident. Anytime we hear the word confident, it's because of somebody doing something. Wow, that guy's got confidence. Look at how he's doing this. Oh, wow. Did you see what she's so confident? She addresses the way that she addresses people, the way she She responds. She's very confident. You know, that means that she has great faith in what she believes in. So let us be so. We have confidence in Yahweh concerning you, both that you do and will do the things we command you. In other words, you were doing them now, and you'll also do them later. You do them in shul when the rabbi, when the teacher, when the preacher is saying that. Oh, that's great. I go home. I'm right back where I started. Okay, but later also you do and will do the things that we command. And he says you command, not weakly and timidly suggesting, well, you know what I think. I don't want to get anybody upset, but again, you might disagree with me, and that's cool too. But I think it's good if you kind of do this, kind of do that. No, he's saying these are things which we command you. That's Shaul. Now, may Yahweh direct your hearts into love of Elohim. The love of Elohim, beginning of wisdom. The love of Elohim is what keeps us buoyant, and we love him by keeping his commandments, according to his word in 1 John 5. Direct your hearts into the love of Elohim and into the patience of Mashiach, into the love of Elohim, which is, we show our love for him by keeping his word, keeping Torah, keeping his commandments. But we command you, brethren, in the name of our Adon Yeshua HaMashiach, that you withdraw from every brother, again, that measure about the compromised situation, every brother who walks disorderly and not according to the tradition which you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow us. We all know what we should be doing. We all should know how to behave ourselves, right? We all know it. Whether we do it is another thing. Okay? For you yourselves know how you ought to follow us. For we were not disorderly among you, behaving in a way that is heavily influenced again by the chametz. We were not disorderly, nor did we eat anyone's bread free of charge. Again, the bread, hamatzah. We did not eat anyone free of charge, but worked with labor and toil night and day, that we may not be a burden to any of you, not because we do not have authority, but to make ourselves an example of how you should follow us. Now, all the leaders who are out there, are we going by the example that he said of how it should be followed? Or are we doing, well, I have the authority. I have the authority to expect this, this, and this. I expect you to toss some shekels my way because I need a third car. I need a vacation suite somewhere, right? That's my authority. Now, how many people are leading by example? That's why I said Eved is the best thing I could be called. An Eved, a servant. Servant doesn't come into the master and say, this is what I want today. Santa, please give me my wishes. Okay. Continuing, for even when we were with you, we commanded you this. If anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. For we hear that there are some who walk among you in a disorderly manner, not working at all, but are busy bodies. Now those who are such, we command and exhort through our Adon Yeshua the Messiah, that you walk in quietness, that they walk in quietness again. Tell them. Now those who are such, we command and exhort through our Adon Yeshua the Messiah, that they walk in quietness and eat their own bread. So in other words, when they read this letter, this is what Paul says. We better get our act in gear. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Again, this is sort of not the overt sin, but it's kind of a misstep. Maybe I was doing things without intentionally hurting somebody or offending anyone, but I was doing both anyway. I just was unaware, oblivious to it. Okay. But as for you, brethren, do not grow weary in doing good. Continue to do good. Continue to do good. Build upon it. Grow, grow, grow. And if anyone does not obey our word in this epistle, okay, now, take note of that person. Do not keep company with him. Ostracize him a little bit so that he might be ashamed. Yet do not count him as an enemy. Yet, but admonish him as a brother. Let these words of warning reach you and have their fullness. And if he's truly of the faith, he will receive it. He will receive it. He'll pray and repent from this. Otherwise, toss him out for the destruction of his flesh, that his spirit may be saved in the day of judgment. 1 Corinthians 5. So these two portions deal with the so-called brothers who don't seem to be acting in a brotherly manner. So again, watch and pray. Watch and pray. Let us be faithful to our most high, wonderful Elohim, Yahweh, who sent us Mashiach to be our atoning sacrifice. And Pesach, first day of unleavened bread. We are on day 4. This Shabbat, which is the symbolism of number 4. Look this up yourselves. See the symbolism of number 4. You guys do a little of the work too, okay? And it's also the 18th, which is Chai, which is life, the day of the resurrection, 3 days and 3 nights after his suffering, after he became the Passover lamb. And we need to keep the feast in the right manner, but let us keep the feast. Okay, so now I'm going to give you contact information. Okay, please keep in touch with us. I got a couple of notes up. It's hard for me to see this. I'm to stick my face right in the camera. Binyamin Zorach ben Moshe. Okay, he gave us earlier greetings and agreements and what we were talking about. I'm thankful for that. We like to hear from you. We want to hear that what we're doing is having an effect on you, whether you agree or if you disagree. You know, that's cool too. We can discuss, but again, we need to always go back to what does the word say. Okay, it was a little blurry for a second because I don't want to rob you of the ability to see my fullness. Okay, I think that's good enough. It's still not perfectly pristine, but it'll do. Okay, so we are Bet Tefilah, BETHTEF. Well, you know how to spell it because you got it on the thing there. Messianic Congregation, Inc. And that's Post Office Box 170384. Again, this is for the snail mail folk who. Okay, I don't know. I got too close, I think. I freaked out the camera, so it'll be okay. Okay, and that's in Ozone Park, New York, 11417. 11417. And our email is milkakorn@aol.com. Okay. And at this time we read the Devarim, we read the 10 words together. This is what we should be doing. You know, we should be reading the word every day. Our daily bread, so to speak, which should be matzah, unleavened. Let the corruption creep in. Doesn't take much. Okay, we'll get it there. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 1 and follows. And Moshe called all Israel and said to them, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your hearing today, that you may learn them and be careful to observe them. Yahuwah, our Elohim, made a covenant with us at Horeb. The eternal Yahuwah did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us. Those who are here today, all of us who are alive, remember he is the El of the living, not the El of the dead. Yahuwah talked with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of the fire. I stood between you at that time to declare to you the word of Yahuwah, for you were afraid because of the fire. You did not go up the mountain. And he said, I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other Elohim beside me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. Notice how they are combined. If you love me, you keep my commandments. 1 John 5. This is the love of Elohim. And we keep his commandments. His commandments are not a burden to us because we have overcome the world. Amen? Amen. Amen. You shall not take the name of Yahuwah your Elohim in vanity. For Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vanity. Observe the Shabbat day to guard it as holy as Yahuwah your Elohim has commanded you. 6 days you may labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahuwah your Elohim. In it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest and cease from activity, as well as you. And remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh your Elohim brought you out from there by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, Yahweh your Elohim commanded you to guard the Sabbath day. Honor your father and your mother, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, that your days may be long, that it may be well with you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, you shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, his male servant, his female servant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words the eternal Yahweh spoke to all your assembly in the mountain of the midst of the fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness, with a loud voice, and he added no more. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. Amen. 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 Toda rabah. Let me just have a quick prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, I thank you again for this day, for this opportunity to enter and to continue to pursue your righteous standard, that your word would grow in us, and we would grow, as I said earlier, in direct opposition to the chametz, which works its way into the batch and leavens the whole batch. Let your word work its way into our heart and allow us to grow into the truth, Abba, and to live as Mashiach lived, using his example, to walk as he walked. Halakha, the way to walk. Thank you, Father. Help us to walk in truth, walk by your light, that your Torah would continue to illuminate our path. I pray against any illnesses that are troubling us, Abba. And at this time of quarantine, of shutdown, Father, that we don't panic. We just do what we need to do. So there are those who would put you to the test and just act, well, I'm not going to get sick, and just go about with no concern. We're not to be foolish. In fact, that's one of the temptations that the adversary thought would work on the Messiah. Jump off the temple. Well, he'll catch you. We don't put you to the test, Father. Put you to the test, Father. You are faithful. There's no way that we can outthink you, outguess you, out anything you, Father, outgive you, outfox you. It's not going to happen. So let us stop from these futile efforts, Abba. So we thank you for this day. I pray for special blessings upon each household that's represented here this day, Father. Even as we're talking about the Beit, the house, that your holy presence would be in each of our homes, Abba. Each of our bodies, Abba, would have your Ruach, and each of our homes. And it's the one Ruach. It's the one Ruach that unites the one body. We're not 25, 50, 200, 5,000 bodies. There's one true body, and we either are in it or we're not. And help us, Father. Help us to grow in that body, Abba, the fullness, with Messiah as the head. And we give you thanks this day. And again, I pray for special blessings. Let us be careful in our dwellings and out of our dwellings. If we have to go out, let us take the precautions that we need to take. And we will eventually be able to be together in the physical again very soon. And we give you thanks this day. For all things we give you praise in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay. I don't know if I had any other notes to go with that. Amen. Amen. Now, the second part, again, is to emphasize he is risen. And that's I put that in there because every Shabbat we should celebrate the fact that he is risen. He's the risen Yahweh. We just don't celebrate today, although today is the literal day. So let us indeed celebrate, just like our wedding anniversaries and these various occasions that we celebrate in our lives, Celebrate them, but don't discount the rest of the year. Pesach, we long for Pesach. It is an essential observance that we need to hold up. But you know what? Those who are ill or for various genuine reasons, not convenient reasons, we have room for next month to keep us with them. So anyway, With this in mind, I want to speak again. We talked about the Chai, the 18. It's the day of Chai. It's the day of life, and it is wonderful. And I want to bring into this picture Jonah, okay, and the sign of Jonah, and the name Jonah is the dove, and it also means gentle. So gentle dove. So usually the name suggests something about the individual, but when we think of Jonah, we think of him running away from his responsibilities, right? That's usually the first thing we think of, the reluctant prophet. But for him to be a prophet, he had to have done some good works, some faithful works prior to that, because he then says, I know how faithful you are. So let us look. In Matthew chapter 16, the first 12 verses of Matthew 16, 1 through 12. Then the Parashim, the Tzaddikim, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees came and testing him, asked that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said to them, when it is evening, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and threatening. Hypocrites! You know how to discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. And again, very interesting use of words there, signs and times. Genesis 1:14 talks about the luminaries are given for signs and appointed times, the Moedim, for days, years. They should have known this. Should have known that. Just as when Messiah cried out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, they should have said, oh, he's quoting from Psalm 22. Let's look there. Okay. A wicked and adulterate generation seeks after a sign, and no sign shall be given it to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. You know, that's a wise thing. He didn't retreat, he departed. He saw he was not going to make any headway there. He left. You know, you don't cast your pearls before swine. Doesn't mean that you're giving the swine victory over you. You know, you just know better. You don't do that because it's, you know, you're going to be messed up by prolonging your stay. And that's pride. Pride if we think that we can do something, that we hit a dead end. What was his name? Bob Mendelsohn once said, you know, when is a question not a question? Like when somebody says, how could you believe in this nonsense? Obviously, they don't really want an answer. They don't really want to engage you. They want to insult you and call you a dope. Because we are what we believe. We are what we eat, right? You know, and the flamingos are pink because they eat krill that makes them pink. If you don't feed them that stuff, they stay white. So we are what we eat. We are what we think. We think, therefore we are. René Descartes. We think, therefore we are. We live, we move, we have our being. These are all words from secular sources, but it's basic understanding. It's basic stuff. So if somebody's going to insult you, just later. Just leave. Now, when his Talmudim had come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. And Yeshua said to them, take heed and beware the leaven of the Pharisees, the chametz of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it's because we have taken no bread. But Yeshua, being aware of it, said to them, oh, you of little faith, why do you reason among yourselves because you have brought no bread? Do you not yet understand or remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000, or the many baskets you took up, nor the 7 loaves, the 4,000, and how many large baskets you took up? How is it you do not understand that I did not speak to you concerning bread? So again, this is the same thing when we're talking about the chametz, right? We're not talking about leaven. We're not talking just about yeast, having foods with yeast. There's bigger things, bigger fish to fry in this commandment. If we don't do it, we're going to be cut off. Oh, if I forgot a slice of birthday cake, he's going to kill me, you know? Ay. But to beware of the leaven, the chametz of the Pharisees and Sadducees. But then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and Sadducees. So you see that sentence. Understand that there's more at stake here than having a cookie. All right. He did not tell them that to beware of leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So there's a bigger thing at stake than simply eating something that we shouldn't be eating. It's a matter of life and death in the community, right? Matthew 12, verse 40. So again, within that context of the, but he said that's the sign he's going to give, the sign of Jonah. We'll give that to an adulterous generation. Okay, that's the sign. Watch out for it. In other words, for as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish. And this is Matthew 12, verse 40. Okay. Okay. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh will rise up in the judgment with this generation and condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and indeed a greater than Jonah is here. When faced with the dire circumstances that awaited him in the garden, Yeshua prayed to the Father 3 times. O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. So, but again, he's not backing away. He completes the course. That's why he says it is finished. He concludes his purpose. He does what he needs to do. He doesn't do any more or any less. We are called to do the same. Fulfill your purpose, your ministry. We're not all called to create the architect drawings to build a building or create a bridge across, a sea. We're not called to do things like that. We're called specifically for the tasks that we're capable of doing. And it's going to be different between us. But we need to fulfill our purpose, Abba. We need to do that. So Elohim loved us so much that he was willing to see this through the time of a crisis, through the pain, suffering, and humiliation that Messiah endured for us, right? Jonah ran. Okay, he did run, but he didn't run out of fear of Israel's longtime nemesis, Nineveh, of Assyria. He wasn't afraid of Nineveh. He didn't like Nineveh. That's what it was. Because Jonah chapter 4 verse 2. That is why I was so quick to flee to Tarshish. I knew from experience, apparently, I knew that you are gracious and compassionate Elohim, slow to anger and abounding in love, an Elohim who relents from sending calamity. See, I knew. And as a result, he feels bad because Yahweh is so generous. It also includes in his generosity his enemies or his perceived enemies. And this enters into racism and anti-Semitism too. I remember reading a thing years ago. I forget how long it was, but there was a large percentage of anti-Semitism in Japan, and this was basically from people who had never met a Jew before, never met a Jewish person before. Same thing with racism. There are people who were brought up saying this person is inferior to you. They're basically evil. They can do nothing positive in your life. They're out to trick you, and you've never met them. You've never interacted with them, and then you're presented with them and say, you have these racist things going on in your head. So anyway, so let us be free of the chametz. And our reluctance to serve, for whatever reason, is like leaven. It's chametz. Our reluctance to do what needs to be done is also chametz. It drives us far off the course. But he will find us. He's very good at getting our attention. And in the case of Jonah, he provides a great fish to swallow Jonah and to alter his course. It's tough love, right? And to put him back on track, and he even delivers him to his speaking engagement. Okay, so we look at the verse. Vayeman Yahuwah da gadol liv loa et Jonah. The eternal Yahuwah provided. He provided a large fish, a da gadol, to swallow Jonah. Okay? So we need to also know that each one of us is uniquely gifted and qualified to accomplish and fulfill our own unique ministry. And as I said before, the idea of ministry is minus to serve. Our ministry is to serve, to be lessened. Okay, to give of oneself, to be. It's like in the Passover Seder, when you fill up the goblet with the wine, and you diminish the cup of joy with the various 10 plagues, dam, and so on, death of the firstborn, 1 to 10, and the cup is diminished by the suffering of others, by the situation that was presented to them. Okay, so but we're all gifted, and to truly be a minister is to be minus to yourself, is to not puff yourself up, but to realize that you are a servant. So essentially, we are no longer slaves in Egypt, we are slaves to Yahuwah in our freedom. We are servants to do as he commands us to do. But these are commands that give us life and give us the fullness of the fullest experience of a faithful, joyful life that we can imagine, that we couldn't figure out on our own, but he gives that to us too in his Torah. How can you live a full, satisfying life? There you go. Okay. So his message to Nineveh is 5 words. 5 words. So again, we see the number of the continuous action of unleavened breads. For 3 days and 3 nights, he's in the belly of the fish. 3 days it takes to take the journey. And then the 7th day, he stops and preaches the word of Yahuwah. So that's the 7 days. And he relents, the Eternal relents, because of the actions that were taken, the continuous action, because the message that was given to them led to actions. It led to repentance. It led to this whole, evidence of their willingness to repent. So it's amazing, isn't it? We got 3 fish, three journey, and 1 day, which is a stoppage, a time to stop, to preach the word, and it leads to actions, further actions. And it's actions that save that generation. 5 words. 5 words, the most successful, certainly with Kepha in Acts chapter 2, very successful ministry, right? Od Arba'im, 40 more, Yom, 40 days more, Va Nineveh, and Nineveh, Ne Pachet, will be overturned, turned over. Okay? Amazing success. So they obviously were ready for something. And here, the one extra ingredient put a hole in that dam, and it just burst. They were ready. They led to a mass repentance. They were ready. Once Jonah delivers his warning to his hated enemy and sees the fruit of that he, after he discharges his duties, he mopes because of Yahuwah's generosity. He mopes. And we see that Yahuwah gives us his provisions. And again, there are 4 provisions that he provides. And the word is manna. Now, manna is not manna. Manna in Hebrew is man, like, hey, man. Okay, but manna is, and manna, ironically, man, the manna, we say, man is provided by the Father. So, manna, man. So, he provides the man. He provides, because the word is to provide. It also means to weigh out, to appoint, to prepare, to set, to establish. Okay? 1 verse 17, Yahuwah prepares a great fish. And also, not all of these provisions are necessarily pleasant experiences, mind you. I didn't say that. There's tough love sometimes. So 117, Yahuwah prepares a great fish. 4 verse 6, he prepares a vine for shade. And just as Jonah's getting comfortable in his mope, he's putting on a really good mope, a really good pity party, And then the next verse, he provides a worm to devour the plant that was shading him. Again, a few weeks back, I spoke about that worm, that scarlet worm, and that whole story of what that one worm represents, the worm of Psalm 22. It's not just a worm, it is a specific worm, the crimson worm. Look back at our previous teachings and you'll see that. Okay. And then in the next verse, to make things even more unpleasant, he provides and prepares a scorching Sirocco wind. So it's like, all right, enough, you know. So whatever we need to do what needs to be done, whatever instruction we need to hear, to adapt and live by, it's not always a pleasant experience. It could be difficult. It involves the breaking of when we pray, addictions, compulsions, habits, foolishness, selfishness, ignorance, temptations. All these things can be broken, but they're not always pleasant experiences. We when we reach hell, we break through. We continue to break right through. So these situations may be difficult, but we keep going, knowing that He's on the other end of this darkness. You know, even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we will walk through it. Walk through the valley of shadow of death, not walk and be lost and frustrated and succumb to gloom and despair, but to keep going, walk through, because we trust in our Father, the shepherd, right? Psalm 23. Okay. So curious, we see these 4 steps that Elohim, Yahweh, was willing to do to get Jonah to do his preaching, but then to continue to discipline him and to make him to be the person he needs to be. He already did what he was called to do, but he still persisted in these last 3 preparations, provisions. Okay? So what has the eternal Yahweh provided to ensure you of your obedience, cooperation, and faithfulness? What's happened to you to get your attention that might not have been so pleasant, but you look back and say, it needed to happen. It needed to happen. And as I've said before in my previous weeks, I have this MS condition and I have this AFib condition also. These are both there to keep me focused. And again, I'm not being grateful for having these illnesses, but they've helped to get me focused. And I'm praying for them to be gone, just like we pray for you out there, that you don't succumb to any illness, you know, that we would get through this situation that we're dealing with now, this shutdown. Okay, so we talk about these things that the Lord provided and prepared and appointed specifically for a task to be met. So now let's just look at this Psalm 90 of Moses. It's a Moses song. Psalm 90, verse 1 says, Yahweh, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. We dwell in you. We dwell in you and your provisions and who you are, in your greatness. And then we skip down to verse 11 and 12. Who knows the power of your anger? For your wrath is as great as the fear that is due to you. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. So again, the word is manah, that's translated number here. So to number our days is to appoint our days, to prepare our lives and our times. So teach us to take each day one at a time, to approach each day. Because remember what the Lord said. It says, don't say, I'm going to go do this. Say, if it's the Lord's will, I will do this. So not to be arrogant and saying, just like those people who say one and done to the Moedim, right? Who's saying 2 and done or whatever, and are not really spiritually minded. Help us to number our days only in the sense that we appoint them, we prepare them. And if we appoint our days and don't waste time, we can specifically set apart a day, again, if it's according to his will, to do this or to do that, to serve him accordingly and effectively heed his instructions, right? Very carefully. We're to proceed very carefully. We are to prepare. We're to set apart each day, make them tov and kadosh, good and holy. Our approach to each day needs to be holy, needs to be good. The way that we approach each day, and also our attitude towards each day. Teach us to deal with each day, is really what it's saying. Help us to approach each day and to remember that each day is sufficient for us for right now. We don't think about tomorrow. Today is the day. It has, as Yeshua said, it's got enough evil. It's got enough to deal with It's got enough to keep us busy, So the present is important. And the wise words of Myra, the operator where I used to work, says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is God's gift to me. That's why it's called the present. Okay? So let's deal with this present. Let's open it up in all its splendor and all its challenge and embrace it, accept it, carpe diem, seize the day. Don't let it slip through your fingers. Each day. That's why for the last couple of years with these challenges, I'll do that later. No, why are you doing it later? Well, just do it now. Get it out of the way. We develop these piles of stuff to do when we get around to it. So I made a little circle and wrote TUIT. Here's around to it. Here, let me give that to you. Now you have around to it. So get around to it and do it. Okay? Anyway, where was I? Okay. Proverbs 15:15. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he who is of a merry heart has a continual feast. So the days of those who do not prepare their days are afflicted and they're evil. But he who is merry heart, who has joy in his heart, because of Torah, because of the Moedim, we have a continual feast. And the continual feast are the Moedim. We continue to observe and honor Mashiach for Pesach. We continue to honor Mashiach for Hag HaMatzot. And we honor him today for the day that he emerges from the tomb. Wonderful, wonderful. So we need to have a merry heart, and we will have a continual feast. A cheerful heart is appointed to celebrate and to be joyous. So we appoint that heart. Be joyful because your victory is near, okay? Today's the 18th of Aviv, the 15th, the 18th day of Hag HaMatzot. It's the day of life and victory and resurrection. He is risen. He's truly risen. He's risen. It might not happen. It might happen. It has happened. And he is risen in your life. He's resurrected in your life that you may be resurrected. As he was talking with Lazarus' sisters, he who believes in me, though he were dead, he will live. And we will never die. We sleep. The righteous in the new covenant, it never says that so-and-so, they sleep. So we prepare for that resurrection day. We prepare for that resurrection day. But he is risen, and he needs to be alive within us. So Messiah gave the sign of Jonah, 3 days and 3 nights. But what happens between that time, and what happens to establish the markers of that time? Again, we're not talking about specific amount of hours, 72 hours. It doesn't say anything like that. But he gives us 2 markers. You're aware of that, I hope. Look to Matthew chapter 27. Matthew 27, verse 50. And Yeshua cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit, the Ruach returning to Ha'av, the Father. Then, behold, the veil of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom, and the earth quaked, and rocks were split, and graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep, see what I'm saying, were raised. If they were sleeping, they wouldn't be raised in the resurrection, would they? Were raised, and coming out of their graves after his resurrection. So this is talking about an event that takes place today, essentially. And then these individuals went into the holy city and appeared to many, not to all, but to many. Who do you think they appeared to? They appeared to those outside of the covenant or inside the covenant? Those in the covenant would need that little extra reassurance, right? Because Yeshua warned, even though, the pagan at heart sees a man come out of the grave, he's got the Torah, he's got the prophets, he's got Tanakh. As Kepha said, we have the word made more certain. So when the centurion and those with him who were guarding Yeshua, again, guarding, observing, watching. So here is a centurion, a guard of Yeshua, saw the earthquake and the things that had happened. They feared greatly, saying, "Truly this was a ben Elohim, a son of Elohim." So do we guard Mashiach? Are we guarding Mashiach in our lives? Shamar. 3 days and 3 nights after this event, Matthew 28, 1 through 7. Now after the Shabbat, as the first day of the week began to dawn, or it can also be translated on one of the Shabbatot, Miriam Migdal and the other Miriam came to see the tomb. And behold, hine, there was a great earthquake. So do you see? When Messiah died, there was a great earthquake. When he was resurrected, there was a great earthquake. These are 2 witnesses of Mashiach. Okay, so let me get back to the text. Came to the tomb, great earthquake, for an angel, a malach of Yahweh, descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his clothing as white as snow. And the guards shook for fear of him, and the ground was shaking with their fear. And they became like dead men. But the malach, the angel, answered and said to the women, do not be afraid. Notice that's the first thing that a malach says to a mortal. Relax, don't be afraid, because their appearance is so dazzling and in certain ways terrifying, because it's beyond us. We don't have the faculties to fully embrace the reality of this presence, okay? Don't be afraid, for I know that you seek Yeshua who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen. And he said, come, see the place where Adon had lain, and go quickly and tell his Talmudim, his disciples, that he is risen from the dead. And indeed he is going before you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you. Wow. There you will see him. Can you imagine what kind of anticipation they had? They didn't doubt. A malach, an angel who terrifies them, is speaking to them, saying Messiah is risen. There's nobody in the tomb. Come, check it out. It's empty. Nothing in there. And he's going ahead of you to the Galil, and you will see him there. You will see him there. These are 3 days, 3 nights after the torturous time that they spent trying to encourage each other, trying to put this all together. So in the span of 3 days, 3 nights, which were framed by 2 massive earthquakes, not from a natural origin, but through Malachim, through the angels, Mashiach kept his promise and fulfilled his own prophecy. So these weren't small tremors. This event sent powerful ripples, I believe, throughout all of the galaxy, throughout the full extent of the universe, because the effect of this atoning work affects everything. It's a game changer on massive proportions. Surely this was and is Ben Elohim. Truly, this was the Creator experiencing this event. What else beyond the 3 days and 3 nights did Mashiach have in common with Jonah? That's another question, right? 3 days, 3 nights, we got that. What else? So if you look at Jonah, the 10 verses of Jonah chapter 2, let's read that together here. Jonah 2, which is the 10 verses. Then Jonah prayed to Yahweh. Again, to pray to, I've said this, but again, I repeat certain things so you got it, you get it, because it's a real blessing. The phrase for to pray is lahit palel, because palel literally means to judge. Lahit palel is to pray to. It also means to judge oneself, to be judged, to be found in accordance and acceptable. And again, I use the same terminology with regards to the book of Esther. When Hadassah approaches Ahasuerus, the king, she had a heavy burden, and she had to pray, judge herself, make sure that she was pure and acceptable to Ahasuerus. And of course, his great love for her allowed him to forego the normal treatment of those who would come into his chambers. He prays to Yahweh, his Elohim. So again, this is not a possessive. We don't say, I saw this thing with Billy Graham says, Jesus belongs to everyone. He belongs to the nations. He doesn't belong to anyone. He doesn't belong to anyone. Death doesn't belong to death either. And again, Hebrew has no possessive verbs, right? Or anything. So when it says his Elohim, what it really says is Elohim to him. So truly, he's crying out to Elohim, to Yahweh, who to him he is an Elohim. So when I say my wife, I can't take her for granted and say she's my possession. I say she is literally a wife to me, in that she loves me and takes care of me, helps me, watches over me. She is a wife to me. Okay, you got that? So in the Hebrew, we have this unusual affinity for behavior. He is Elohim to me. He is the greatest to me because I know him, etc. So again, I don't mean to belabor this. I know this has been a while already. So I just want to make sure that we fully understand all the implications here. Okay, he cries out to Yahweh, his Elohim, okay, from the fish's belly. And he said, I cried out to Yahweh because of my affliction, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol, the grave, I cried, and you heard my voice. And from Sheol he cries out, right? And again, just brief digression, Psalm 139, 7 and 8, where the psalmist, the psalter, asks, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? You know, Tarshish, is that the answer? Where can I flee from your presence? Didn't work for Jonah. If I ascend into the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, behold, Hine, you are there. Okay? For you cast me into the deep. You cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the floods surrounded me. The chametz, cast out, purged, the rejected duties. Okay? You surrounded me. All your billows and your waves passed over me. Then I said, I have been cast out of your sight. Again, cast out. Yet I will look again toward your holy temple. Okay, wait a second. He's in the belly of the whale, the bottom of the ocean, the bottom of existence. I've been cast out of your sight. Yet, and this is an amazing faith, will I look again toward your holy temple. How is he going to do this? How is that possible, right? How is that possible? The waters surrounded me, even to my soul. The deep closed around me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the moorings of the mountains. The earth with its bars closed behind me forever. In other words, he's saying, I was a goner. I was a goner. There's no hope for me. I'm at the absolute nadir. Remember, you have the zenith, the absolute height. He's at the absolute bottom. He's going down below the mountains, down where the bars are closed behind him forever. Yet, here's another yet. He's not a yeti. He's not an abominable snowman. Yet, second time he says yet I will look upon your temple. I will look toward the temple. And yet, you have brought up my life from the pit. You know, Psalm 40. He pulled us out of the miry pit to set us upon the rock of salvation. And yet you brought me up. You brought up my life from the pit. O Yahweh, my Elohim, resurrected back to life. And now he can go again, look again toward the holy temple. You brought me up. You brought my life from the pit. You've brought me up. As I'm praying this prayer, I'm seeing this happening. Resurrected back to life. When my soul, my nefesh, fainted within me, I remembered Zachor. I recall him. Always in your troubles, always remember how faithful he is, how much he loves you. I remembered Zachor, Yahweh, and my prayer went up to you. Again, judging myself, I give to you upwardly the prayer into your holy temple. Those who regard worthless idols, like Nineveh, the people he was going to save, right? Those who regard worthless idols, forsake their own mercy. And yet Yahweh has mercy upon them by sending Jonah to take this strange form of transportation, which was death, but life also. Because he needed to fulfill his purpose, right? Jonah had to complete his mission. He had to. He had to go to the place he didn't want to go. He wasn't just going to be devoured by a fish and digested and sent out the other side after a good digestion period. I'm sure Jonah had plenty of nourishing qualities to him, and yet he was spared from the digestive processes. And he stayed within an area in that fish that he was not going to be digested, but that he would be vomited out. So it was in his plan for Jonah to experience this firsthand, death and resurrection. But I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay what I have vowed. And then it says, salvation is of Yahuwah. So salvation, Yeshua, is of the eternal Yahuwah. So just take a step back for a second. Again, yet I will look towards your holy temple. Yet you have brought me up from the pit to life again. And here I will sacrifice to you with a voice of thanksgiving. And I will pay what I have vowed. I will make the offerings at the temple. And Yeshua is of Yahuwah. So Yahuwah spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah on dry ground, dry land, in the land of the living. So Jonah refers to Yeshua just as Yeshua refers to him. So again, anyone who's reading a story will see that this makes a perfect circuit, doesn't it? Jonah, in this great victory, before he's set back upon the ground, fully resurrected, seeing the light of day in the land of the living, declares Yeshua is of Yahuwah. Isn't that, that's wonderful, isn't it? I'm going to look at Acts chapter 2. Shimon Kifa on Shavuot, and I'm coming close to the end here, so breathe a sigh of relief. And I thank you that you've been staying with us and bearing with us, bearing with me. And Acts chapter 2, 22. Kifa on Shavuot is saying, Men of Israel, hear these words, Yeshua HaNatzeret. Now let me stop there for 1 second. Okay, I keep doing this, I'm sorry. But when Yeshua was nailed to the tree of sacrifice, the stake, there was a sign above his head, right? And it didn't sit well with the Torah teachers and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. You know why? You know why? Because it said, Yeshua HaNatzrati v'melech HaYehudim. And if you look at the letters, the first letter of each of those things, it's Yud He Vav He. Yeshua Yud, HaNatzrati, the Nazarite, the Nazarene, the Nazareth, the branch, the Melech, and king is the Vav, and the final He is Ha-Yehudim. So the sign said Yud He Vav He. So some people were looking and saying, okay. So it fits, doesn't it? Does it not fit? That Yahuwah has a stamp of approval on Yeshua, and that they are one, and they are purposeful, and they accomplish all that they set out to do by their unified word. So Baruch Hashem. So Yeshua of Natzeret, and we are called to be Natzrim. We're called to be Natzrim. And I'm going to do a teaching on that one of these days, in that the in Antioch they were called Christianoi by non-believers, observing who they were, acting as if, whatever. But Natzrati is what they would call it. It was referred to as a sect called the Nazarene. Okay, so again, I won't delay. Okay, Yeshua HaNatzeret, Yeshua of Natzeret, a man attested by Elohim to you by miracles. Proof, the Hine factor. He offered evidence by miracles, by wonders, by signs, which Elohim did through him in your midst, right in where you are. As you yourselves know. You know. You've seen it. Him being delivered by the determined purpose and foreknowledge of Elohim, you have taken by lawless hands, chametz, lawless hands, wicked hands, you have crucified and put him to death, whom Elohim raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that they should be held by it. For David says concerning him, I foresaw Yahuwah always before my face, for he is at my right hand, that I may not be shaken. And again, we get the image of the earthquake again, because this has everything to do with not being in the tomb to see decay. That I may not be shaken, therefore my heart rejoiced, and my tongue was glad. Moreover, my flesh also will rest in hope, For you will not leave my soul in Hades, nor will you allow your Kadosh one, your Holy One, to see decay and corruption, the chametz of death. You have made known to me the ways of life. You will make me full of joy in your presence. And he's quoting from Psalm 16. And I want to read from Psalm 16, verse 11. There's one more portion there. It says, you will show me the path, derech of life, derech chaim. In your presence is fullness of joy, simcha. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Pleasures forevermore. His pleasures. I'm going to Romans chapter 6. Go to Romans chapter 6. And this is where I'm pretty much going to wrap it up. Romans 6, I'm going to begin with verse 5. And I pray that you stayed with us and that you're listening, that you're watching, and that you're getting some of this stuff. And this is amazing stuff. And like I said, I'm just a director. I'm just pointing. I'm nobody. I'm Eved. I'm a servant to do what I need to do. So again, feel free to use this information, however, to bless the Lord if you are blessed by this. Okay, Romans 6, starting with verse 5. For if we have been united together in the likeness of his death, certainly we also shall be likened in the likeness of his resurrection, knowing this, okay, that our old man, the old leaven, the old chametz, was crucified with him, that the body of sin might be done away with, might be purged, might be cast away, cut off. That body, who you used to be, needed to be cut off and cut away. That we should no longer be slaves of sin. Again, we should no longer be Egyptian, be pushed around by Egyptians, okay? And again, I don't mean any disrespect for those who are born in Egypt. I'm talking specifically about the spiritual Mitzrayim, and I pray that there will be more people who evolve from the Coptic faith to come and accept Mashiach more and more, turn away from other things to the living Savior. Okay, so that's the old chametz was crucified with him, that the body of sin might be done away with, purged, that we should no longer be slaves of sin. For he who has died has been freed from sin. Okay, we died, we're no longer sinning because we're dead, can't move around, can't do much to upset anybody. Okay, we've been freed from sin. Now, if we died with Mashiach, we believe that we shall also live with him as a new batch, knowing that Mashiach, having been raised from the dead, dies no more, because there's no sin in him to cause him to die, right? There's no sin to cause us to die either. Death no longer has dominion over him. For the death that he died to sin once for all. But the life he lives to Elohim. And that standard is our standard. I don't mean to shock you people, but listen. Likewise, you also, likewise, in other words, take note because this is you also. Likewise also, reckon yourselves to be dead indeed to sin. In other words, dead, obviously dead to sin, but alive to Elohim in Messiah Yeshua our Adon. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal body, that you should obey it in its lusts. No, we don't have an excuse. Sinners saved by grace? Shut up. Shut up. You know, I pray that that a mute spirit would hit people who are preaching this false, damnable gospel, which is another gospel, preaching another Yeshua, which is lowering the bars so that they can get through, let alone their fragile little lambs. And do not present your members as instruments of unrighteousness or leavened to sin, but present yourselves to Elohim as being alive from the dead. And if you're alive from the dead, the sin stays in the grave, right? You're alive from that. You're no longer a dead person. You're alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to Elohim. We've given that to him. He's bought us by a precious price. Okay? For sin shall not have dominion over you. It shall not. So if sin is continuing to have dominion over you, if you're continuing to do some behavioral issues that should have been purged from you by now, let's revisit these things and let's get it done. Get it done. Get it out. Don't linger. Don't linger. Just like we said before, the word goes fast. The word is delivered with speed and efficiency, like an arrow at the target. Remember, Messiah is the goal at which the Torah aims, from Romans 10:4. And the word for sin is hate, right? To miss the mark. So Messiah is the goal that we need to aim for. And Torah comes from the word yara, which means to point or to shoot as an arrow. So we're doing target practice with our bow and arrow, and we're aiming for Messiah, who is the goal at which Torah aims, that we do not miss the mark. Amen. He is the bullseye. Okay? Sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under Torah for capital offense and death as a criminal. We're not under the capital offense. We're no longer under that, but we are under grace, the chesed, and the mercy of the Most High. Verse 18, and having been set free from sin, you become slaves of righteousness. Verse 22 and 23 says, but now having been set free from sin, and having become slaves of Elohim, you have your fruit to holiness. And next Yom Echad, next Sunday, so to speak, it will be the Feast of First Fruits. So we'll be doing special teachings based upon that for next week. But this coming Tuesday, again, is a Shabbat. Yes, we have a Shabbat today, and we have a Shabbat on Tuesday coming up. Okay? Celebrate it, observe it, keep it, and mindful of what it represents as we've been driving home for these past weeks. Okay? You have your fruit to holiness, and the end, the goal being everlasting life. So again, the end, the telos. It's like Messiah is the telos, the goal at which the Torah aims. Okay? And the goal of everlasting life. Amen. And then what does it say? This is what we've heard this many times. For the wages of sin is death. In other words, it's a salary that has been earned. It hasn't been given. You've earned that salary. Here's your check. Go cash it. No, it's direct deposit. Okay, sorry to hear that. So you're directly deposited and purged out of the community. Oy. Then death and Hades. Okay, nope. The wages of sin is death, but the gift of Elohim is eternal life in Mashiach Yeshua, our Adon. And here I'm going to end with Revelation 20, verse 14 and 15. We're talking about death a lot. We're talking about death. We're talking about death as being the result of misbehavior, of sin. So sin is going to be dealt with. Death is going to be dealt with. Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the final purging, okay? And anyone not found written in the book of life, Sefer Chaim, was cast into the lake of fire. So we need to have our names written in that book of life. And what we've been teaching, all these long 20 programs, is all about behaving in a manner that's conducive to you qualifying to have your names inscribed in the book of life. How we conduct ourselves. How do we respond to so great a salvation? Do we ignore so great a salvation? Or do we embrace it and accept it and live in it? How wonderful. How wonderful is this? He is risen. He is risen. And the sign of Jonah and the earthquakes that bookend the death and resurrection, not by coincidence. And the fact that Yeshua refers to Jonah and Jonah refers to Yeshua. Yeshua is of Yahuwah. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And everything is balanced. Everything makes sense. But the fourth day of unleavened breads also is on the same day as the 18th of Aviv, the day of life, Chaim, Mayim Chaim, the living waters, the eternal life. It's wonderful. It's all balanced. It all comes together. And I'm just praying that you've been with us for this whole message today. And we're grateful for you being with us. And we're thankful that you study, show yourself approved, not how smart you are, but how deeply you value your relationship with the Most High Elohim, how wonderful He is. And we can come to know Him. Shabbat is that day, the seventh day, the day of continuous action. Let us continue to move forward and make progress in our lives, to overcome the things that would gum up the works. So let us be able to move forward. Again, this Feast of Unleavened Breads. After that seventh day, we take off the training wheels and we're ready to go. Ready to go. And with renewed vigor, with confidence, confides, with faith. We go with confidence, with faith, moving forward and onward and making the great progress. And then looking forward to Shavuot, Feast of Pentecost, and then the summer of business, of activities in which we have other first fruits to observe as well. But the first fruits of the barley is next week, the Aviv. And again, I just thank you for being with us again. And again, if you have any questions on any of this stuff, I gave you our phone number is actually back there. It's not super clear. 718-366-5282. Okay. I've never done that before, but I will now. Because if there's any stumbling block, anything that we're not hearing, anything that we're not registering, we need to be clear. We need to be clear. I shared from the Word. Today. Yeah, I inserted comments here and there, but it's all based on understanding of what the scriptures say, what the words mean, and so on and so forth. So I just pray that you would receive that this day. And I thank you for allowing me to share that. So let us give thanks to the Most High Elohim, Yahuwah, the eternal Yah, the Lord, the one who was, who is, and who shall be, all glorious through eternity. We give him thanks. V'hu haya v'hu oveh, v'hu yiyeh b'tifara. Amen. This is the Torah which Moshe placed before the children of Israel, the Bnei Israel. It is in accord with the hand, with the Eternal's command by the hand of Moshe. A tree of life it is for those who take hold of it. Blessed are the ones who support it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness. All its paths are peace. Long life is in its right hand, and its left are riches and honor. The eternal Yah was pleased for the sake of his righteousness to render Torah great and glorious. Amen. Amen. Todah Rabbah, we give thanks. When the ark would rest, Moshe would say, Return, our Lord, Yahuwah, to the myriads of Israel's families. Arise, O eternal Yah, to your resting place, you and your mighty ark. Clothe your priests, your Kohanim, with righteousness, and may those who have experienced your faithful love shout for joy. Amen. Amen. L'chaim b'shem Yeshua, to life, and Messiah Yeshua, who is alive, and he is risen, and he intercedes. He is still a Kohen Hagadol. He's still a Kohen Hagadol. That's not an allegory. He still makes intercession for us. Okay, for the sake of your servant David, don't delay the return of your Mashiach. I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah. Amen. Amen. And again, until next week, but before next week, again, keep the day holy on Tuesday. Seventh day of unleavened breads. Read through your scriptures. I gave you a lot of matzah today. I gave you a lot of matzah. I gave you several boxes worth. A lot of boxes. Here you go. Here you go. Want to take that? Here it is. Matzah. Matzah for you. Matzah for me. Matzah for us. Amen?
Amen.
And we will conclude the seventh day, again, propelling us forward. It's not the last day of unleavened breads, but we pray that until we meet you again, on next Shabbat, it will be a day from our keeping the observance of the first fruits of the barley that sets in motion. That's the first of the first fruits. Just like this is the first of the first month of months. All these stand the first day of the new year, the first month of the new year, the first fruits of the year. We give honor and praise to our sovereign, eternal Yahuwah. Amen. And may he, who is above all blessings and praise, may he bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And may we add the peace that surpasses our understanding to guard our hearts and our minds in Mashiach Yeshua. Amen. Yivarechach Yahuwah v'yishmerecha. Yair Yahuwah panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Yahuwah Panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Amen.
Amen.
May the Eternal bless you and keep you. And I just pray that you're keeping safe. You know, the fact that you are indoors or locked up, yeah, it gives you more time to read your Bibles. Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, got trashed for suggesting that we use this time to read the Bible and to give thanks. The world is going to trash you too, guys. That's why Mashiach said, look, the world might hate me, you know, but it's going to hate you too. You know, the world system, there's no way that we can have it. That doesn't mean that we can't have friends or be accepted, even like they had that Assyrian king dealing with Ezra and Nehemiah. But to be of that system, to be of that whole deal, we have to say, no, we can't. They're going to hate us. They're going to hate us. Haters got to hate. Okay? It's okay. Because we have somebody who loves us more than we can imagine, what we can fathom. And this is the day where he's proving it. Proven. Give us proof of who you are. Give us a sign. Okay. Here we are. We've arrived at the 18th of Aviv, the day of life, the day of Yeshua, his salvation. Yeshua is of Yahuwah. The eternal is sent Messiah for us. So we give thanks. Thank you. And at this time, we do our closing song.
The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. And give you peace. And give you peace. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. And be gracious unto you. And be gracious. The Lord be gracious. Gracious unto you.
Amen. And I wish you all Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shabbat of peace, of life, long life. And we give you thanks. And again, I thank you for being with us. Please tell others about it and prescribe to us and get all updates that we may have coming up. But every Shabbat at 11 a.m., we will be here. We will be here. Even if it's me. And from my punim you have to look at, but you hear the rest of the brethren on the phone until we're able to meet again officially, and it'll get better. It'll get better. He's looking out for us, and we give him thanks. And again, I give you thanks as well. And I pray that you all have a blessed Shabbat and that you all keep safe, and that you look in on your neighbors, that you help each other at this time. And again, Shabbat Shalom. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.